Chapter 748, The beginning of expansion. The reappearance of Zhongde was akin to an earthquake for all of the four realms. To the young people, this name was unfamiliar. But for those older, they all changed expression when they spoke of him. When people found the life history of this old general from the records, their hearts shook, they stopped breathing, and their lips tasted the thick tang of blood. The heart-shaking battle campaigns, even after 50 years of dust, still caused people's hearts to beat frantically. The first thing that Zhongde did after returning was to make a great cleansing of Xixin. He killed so many of the upper ranks that it had never happened before in the history of the four realms. Xixin was dyed in blood, and the central region of Xixin, the Central Plains, was soaked in blood. Countless Xixin battle generals heard of this, and hurriedly fled in the night. The outside world learned later that in the span of a short month, the commanders of 39 battalions had disappeared. And in the unprecedented cleansing process, the true number of people from Xixin that were executed was 30,000, and not 7,000 as previously believed. Under Zhongde's iron fist, not even one rebellion occurred. Soon, Zhongde, whose hands were covered in blood, once again showed the world his cruel and vicious style. He did not wait for the sect to finish reorganizing, did not care about the instability of the sect. He suddenly led the Abyss Prison Battalion to appear on the borders of Xixin. In a lightning-fast campaign, he destroyed 3 factions. This was a retaliation. The 3 factions destroyed were the 3 factions that had recently defeated Xixin's battalions. This seemingly normal retaliatory action shocked the world again, because the cities were massacred. Even though fighting had occurred for so many years, massacring everyone was rare, even in battles between the Xiuzhe and Yaoma. The 17 cities of the 3 Jie became a desolate land. Such cruel actions caused condemnation from the rest of the 4 realms. Crowds of people were furious. They called him cruel, bloodthirsty, savage, and emotionless, butcher, and all sorts of other words to describe the old general. But no matter how they criticized, no battalion dared to advance on Xixin. The people were filled with deep terror and fear of this inhuman battle general. When enough blood had been split, there naturally would be peace. These became famed words spoken by Zhongde. All of Xixin trembled. The factions surrounding Xixin trembled. No one dared to say that Xixin was the second Xiankong temple. Even people who hated Xixin had to admit that Xixin's rise could not be stopped, even if its rise was by struggling up from the mud and mired in blood. Sweeping away its decline, Xixin was at peace again. However, after 5 years at rest, the major sects that had focused on their own development had now finished their preparations to fight again. This time, Kunlun moved first. Kunlun had begun to move. Zuomo's expression was grave. In front of him, everyone else was grave as well. They knew that one day Kunlun would become an enemy they had to face. The indescribable pressure of Kunlun always was a stone weighing on their minds. Our present holdings are 69 jie, Gong Sun Cha said calmly. After digesting Xiankong Temple, Kunlun's dominion is about 1,300 jie. Tianhuan holds 1,100 jie. Xixin has not developed much and holds about 800 jie. The 9 great Dynana sects hold about 600 jie. Gu Liang Daos faction controls 142 jie. These are the public numbers, and the numbers of those jie controlled secretly are hard to calculate. Also, each faction have always been working to take the surround factions to strengthen themselves. If we face them now, we have no chance of victory. What is fortunate is that between us and Kun there are the 9 great Dhyana sects, Tianhuan, and Xixin. While Mo Cloud Sea is slightly remote, there are no strong enemies around. This is our advantage. The Jie map on the wall clearly showed Mo Cloud Sea's boundaries. Of the entire 4 realms, it was a tiny piece. While everyone was familiar with these numbers, they still inhaled sharply. The enormity of Kunlun and Tianhuan was suffocating. He Ming stood up and then said, "In the past few years, our strength has grown quickly. Abundant resources in addition to our great production abilities, as well as our mature trade channels. Our wealth accumulation has been good. The frontline battalions have all completely been refitted with the new Mo Cloud system, Shin equipment. It is one of the top Italian Shin raiments on the market and the inventory we have is satisfactory. When he spoke of this, the battle generals present nodded and were full of confidence. This was true. While Mo Cloud C was not large at present, but its equipment was among the best of the world. As Shun power developed, talismans had gradually left the world stage to be replaced by Shin equipment. Shin equipment was the lesser version of Shin devices. It was not as powerful as Shin device raiments, but it did not strain the user as much as Shin device raiments did. Most importantly, it was not as expensive to create as Shin device raiments. Mo Cloud C's Mo Cloud system, Shin equipment had always been one of the outstanding Shin equipment on the market. Together with Kunlun system and Tianhuan system, it was ranked as the top tier and collectively were called the three great Shin equipment. Even Shixien system and the 9 great Diana system were on a lower level. The level of the Shin equipment required understanding of Shin power, skill in forging, and rich resources. In the short term, no one would be able to shake the status of the three great systems. In reality, while Mo Cloud C's territory was not large, there were rarely people who would think of them as a small local power. They produced top-level Shin equipment, had 2 top battle generals, they did not have a large territory but had abundant resources. No one dared to look down at them. Inside Mo Cloud C were strong beings that were full of confidence and didn't know what fear was. Everyone turned to look at Zuemo. No matter if it was Gong Sun Cha's analysis or He Ming's words, the one who would make the final decision would be Zuemo. We need to expand. When Zuemo spoke, everyone became energized, especially the battle generals. They had fought in the past with Lilmis, and felt rusty after being inactive for so many years. In truth, everyone knew that in the present situation, expansion was their own option. While Mo Cloud C looked as steady as a rock, that was because there was the 9 great Diana sects in the between them and their enemies. If they waited for Kunlun and Tianhuan to grow bigger, when the time arrived, they wouldn't even be able to protect themselves. While the Jinji defense line was strong, but if Kunlun and Tianhuan disregarded the loss of life, it would not be difficult to overcome. Mo Cloud C could rival them in elite battalions, but was lacking greatly in normal battalions. Just a battle of numbers was enough to destroy Mo Cloud C several times over. Only by expanding Mo Cloud C and strengthening itself could they possess the power to fight back. Maybe other people were willing to submit to the other powers, but for the core members of Mo Cloud C, this was definitely impossible. The first to disagree would be Zuemo. He had great grudges to settle with Kunlun, Tianhuan, and Shixien. He was fated to only have the path of fighting to the end. The reason they hadn't chosen to expand before was that their foundation was shallow. It was easy to conquer territories, but they didn't have the ability to digest it. Blind expansion would cause internal problems and weaken their defense against other factions. However, after the past several years of development, the present Mo Cloud C had the ability to expand now. The present question is, which direction do we expand in? Zuemo threw out the problem, and the atmosphere in the room suddenly became fiery. 9 great Diana sects. They look like they have a lot of people, but they definitely cannot fight. Other than Yang Yuan Hao, they don't have anyone else. Yes, the 9 great Diana sects. I heard that they were fighting among themselves. This is a good chance. The 9 great Diana sects were the 4th greatest power in the Xiuzhou world, but their inner conflicts were fierce. Their system was similar to the Yao Council of Elders. The 9 sect leaders formed a sect leader council to govern the entire region together. Since the 9 great Diana sects were about the same in power, internal conflict had never stopped since the day they formed. It was only a loose alliance that was not united enough. What was most fatal was that they lacked top battle generals. The 9 great Diana sects only had one top battle general, Yang Yuan Hao. This was not equal to their status as one of the 4 great Xiuzhou powers. In comparison, Mo Cloud C possessed 2 top battle generals. No one dared to underestimate them. If Shixien hadn't been extremely weak before Zhongde had come back, the 9 great Diana sects would be the faction that people had the worst outlook on. Listening to the people chat, Zuemo thought inside. He had been pondering this question a long time ago. This kind of strategic decision would directly affect their future development. No, we will not fight against the 9 great Diana sects. Zuemo spoke. Everyone immediately closed their mouths to listen carefully. The 9 great Diana sects are like a shield. As long as the shield is not damaged, we do not need to directly face the superpowers like Kunlun. We should not attack them. Rather, we should support them so they do not have to worry about their rear. The best scenario would be for them to fight against Kunlun and Tianhuan. That is most beneficial for us. Gong Sun Cha and Bihan nodded. Zuomo's analysis was reasonable. Hadn't they always wanted to purchase our MO cloud system, Shin equipment? Sell to them. We need to support them as much as we can so they will fight with Kunlun and Tianhuan. Yang Yuanhao is very strong, and they will likely be fighting a defensive war on home territory. They the advantage. It will not be easy for Kunlun and the others to win. Many people nodded inwardly. Then where do we expand? Someone asked in puzzlement. Other than the 9 great Diana sects, the others were all small factions. While it was not costly to fight, the benefits were also small. After taking down 56 Jie in one go, they did not care about these little pieces. These little factions were small in land and scarce in resources. We will expand towards the MO territories. Zuomo's answer was unexpected. Everyone stilled, but many people's expressions started to turn existed. The MO territories had vast lands, rich resources. People like Ajagu, Sherdong, and and had desired to expand into the MO territories. Yet Zuo had always seemed uninterested in the MO territories, which had disappointed them. Who do we attack first? Lei Peng's eyes were bright. The MO Martial Alliance. Zuo said unhesitatingly. Gong Sun Cha and Bihan were slightly surprised. In the 100 Savage realm, the MO Shin Temple was the strongest, followed by the MO Martial Alliance led by Marshal D, then the Heroes Alliance at third. Everyone thought that Zuo would first start with the weakest, the Heroes Alliance, but Zuo unexpectedly targeted the MO Martial Alliance. Our goal is 100 energy Jie. Zuomo's heated gaze was full of desire. Chapter 749. Starting from the beginning, Zuo had desired 100 energy Jie since discovering the Shen crystals. In these past years, Zuo had continued to send in spies to find the general location of the Shen crystal mine. However, the Shen crystal veins were hidden well and hard to quietly extract. Also, it was blocked off by a layer of fragmented star metal. This was also why the Shen crystals hadn't been found and harvested by others after many years. 100 energy Jie was under the rule of the MO Martial Alliance. If he wanted to extract these Shen crystals, there was only one way: take 100 energy Jie. The MO Martial Alliance had developed rapidly in the recent years. The MO Marshals, led by Marshal D, were wealthy to start with. Each person that could reach Marshal level was a strong individual. Ever since they watched the battle between Zuo and the Yao elders, they had a new understanding of Shen power. Most of them chose to go into seclusion to cultivate and create a Shen power that belonged to their clan. The MO were varied with subtypes and each clan possessed their unique bloodline. Unlike the Shen power of the MO Shen Temple, the MO Martial Alliance focused on upgrading their bloodline, using the MO physique as a base to obtain Shen power. This Shen power cultivation method quickly became the mainstream for the MO territories. Its greatest advantage was that it could express the power of the MO physique and one did not need to restart their cultivation from the beginning. The Heroes Alliance also chose to use this cultivation method. Because of the differences in MO physique, the Shen methodologies they each used were different. Each family knew that Shen methodologies were crucially important to their clan's future and gathered all of their strength to overcome this obstacle. This kind of Shen power was called MO Shen power. The MO Shen Temple who was advanced in Shen power actually became the exception. This, however, did not affect the status of the MO Shen Temple. The 3 great MO gods were unstoppable in the recent years, their territory expanding rapidly to become the strongest faction in 100 Savage Realm. The strong MO Martial Alliance did not cause them to feel fear. Once Zuo determined the target, the battle generals, led by Gong Sun Cha and Bihan, started to move. A plan around the goal of taking over 100 energy GS secretly took form. Pu-Pu's home for battle generals had some fame among the Yao battle generals. The students performed outstandingly in war chess, even defeating several of the military battle generals in succession, which had caused its fame to rise. However, not many people cared. Even the active battle generals that had been defeated did not think too much of the defeat. No matter how realistic war chess was, there were still great differences between war chess and true battle. It was not strange for a battle general strong in war chess to be terrible in real combat. There were also many loose organizations like this among the Yao. The members that Pu-Pu's home for battle generals took in were those battle generals who were not very strong. These people had average marks in the Yao art houses, some of them just barely managing to pass. Students like this usually had a hard time entering a battalion. If one did not have a strong background, they would need great talent to enter a battalion. Pu-Pu's home for battle generals were relaxed in their management of their members. It was easy to enter and effortless to leave. Naturally, no one would pay attention to an organization like this. The most famous member of Pu-Pu's home for battle generals was Liang Wei. But no battalion had thrown an olive branch out to this disgraced battle general. The one who had relieved him of command was Corp Command Ensure. Someone who had real power in the military, and his experience among all of the Yao was at the top. His background was strong, and no one was willing to risk offending Corp Commander Ensure to recruit Liang Wei into their command. Liang Wei also liked to fight and had a wild personality. He looked like a troublemaker, and there were rarely people who wanted a troublemaker under their command. Liang Wei had been idle at home for 7 years, and no battalion had made any offer for him. The laughter and taunts against Liang Wei grew in more unrestrained. The reputation that Pu-Pu's home for battle generals had among the battle general circle of being the failure camp grew and solidified. The battle generals that thought themselves strong disdained this place. Ever since some active battle generals were defeated, no one liked to come here. There was nothing worthy of praise if they won, but if they lost, their comrades would laugh at them for a long time. Affected, many irresolute students left. The students left were all those that were not affected by the rumors outside. Compared to the mockery outside, the students inside Pu-Pu's home for battle generals were unusually quiet. These students, for the most part, had studied for more than 3 years at Pu-Pu's home for battle generals. The great majority of them had their own jobs, and would only have the time to come at night. If they could not enter a battalion, then it was not easy for battle general students to find work. What interested them the most was the simulation match each week. Even now, they did not know the identity of Pu-Pu's home for battle generals founder. However, they could clearly feel that the other was strong. This kind of feeling was especially strong during the simulation match. When this time came, Pu-Pu would personally come. The simulation chess was even more realistic than war chess. Every student who attended the simulation chess match for the first time was astonished, but they would be quickly sucked in. The strange and variable tactical style and the unfathomable power of the person called Pu-Pu made them feel hopeless each time. Every week, the hottest topic of discussion was how long someone could survive against Pu-Pu's hand. The record holder had always been Liang Wei. Today was the same as usual. Liang Wei still struggled to endure under the other's barrage of attacks. Even though he was already used to the strength of the opponent, but every match, that unstoppable pressure made him feel suffocated. The only thing comforting was that he had started to be able to tolerate this feeling of suffocation. Complete defeat. He panted furiously and was soaked in sweat. He looked at the time and was slightly happy. Compared to last time, he had survived a half hour longer than before. He was preparing to leave the simulation chess like usual when Pu-Pu, standing on the opposite side, suddenly spoke. The simulation chess is unable to help you improve anymore. Liang Wei stilled. He stopped walking. The thread of joy from his achievement immediately disappeared without a trace. He suddenly felt empty. In these years, coming to Pu-Pu's home for battle generals every day had almost become a habit. His mind had only stopped being restless because he could feel he was continuously improving. If Pu-Pu's home for battle generals could not make him improve any further and he did not have to come here, then where should he go? Other than fighting, he didn't know anything else. If he hadn't had accumulated savings in the early years, it would be a problem for him to even live. When Poo said this place could not improve here, in that moment he felt clueless and bewildered. But he was a battle general that had been tempered in blood and fire. His resolve was far stronger than normal people. He focused and asked, "Then what can make me improve?" "True battle." Liang Wei dimmed. Gradually, his lips turned in a grimace. He knew that Poo was right. While he had never seen Poo's true appearance, he was still filled with respect towards Poo. He was unlike the other students. He had seen the world and had fought against many strong people. Poo was the strongest battle general he had ever seen. He could not understand what such a great battle general was doing here within a small battle general school. He concluded that Poo might be in a situation similar to himself. Either he was disliked by his superior officer, or he was being isolated by his peers, or there were other reasons that he started this battle general school to waste away time. Where is there true battle? Liang Wei smiled in self-mockery. If you are willing, I can think of a way. However, the conditions will be harsh. You need to be mentally prepared, Poo said. Liang Wei was really stunned this time. A moment later, he asked suspiciously, "You really have a way?" "You are very talented, but if you keep on being wasted, you will never have any hope of entering the ranks of the true top battle generals." Poo's voice seemed to come from afar away but hit Liang Wei's fragile heart. Liang Wei suddenly raised his head. "Who are you really? Do you really care who I am? You only care if you can enter the battlefield again. You only care if you can get revenge. As long as I am not Kunlun, will you care about anything else?" Pu Yao asked in response. Liang Wei's body shook slightly. "You investigated me? With your past, is it even an investigation?" Pu Yao continued to ask in response. Liang Wei was silent. While not everyone knew of his history, but there were innumerable people among the battle general circles that knew. "What do you want me to do?" Liang Wei asked in a deep voice. "Do what you are most skilled at," Pu answered. "Which battalion?" Liang Wei felt as though something was burning inside his body. The flames burned at his heart, and the temperature of his blood continued to rise. A group of rabble, they only have completed basic training. Pu didn't change at all. Liang Wei was slightly disappointed. Did you really think that a trained battalion would be given to you? It seems that you do not have a deep enough understanding of your situation. If you want to return to the battlefield, you have to start over from the beginning. Pu was not polite. Liang Wei nodded. "You are right. Also, only a battalion that you built with your own hands will be a battalion that truly belongs to you. All of your ideas can be realized through them. You will be the leader of the battalion." Liang Wei felt there was an indescribable temptation in Pu's words. In a few short sentences, his heart was moved, and he felt that burning once again. This guy was a true demon. "All right." Liang Wei nodded and then asked, "You are sure we will fight against Kunlun?" "Do not worry about this. We are mortal enemies with Kunlun." Pu's voice was also filled with pleasure. "Starting from the beginning, I need some helpers." Liang Wei had already started to consider the practicalities. "You can pick anyone from Pu's home for battle generals. You should know their strength. Give a list to me, and I will persuade them," Pu said. Liang Wei's confidence increased. There were some outstanding students. More importantly, everyone was familiar with each other. They had built trust with each other, and this would spare a lot of trouble in the future. A battalion built with these people as the framework, it really made one anticipate. "Alright, I need to go back and think. I will give the list to you tomorrow." Liang Wei felt as though he couldn't wait. "No problem." Pu's response was brisk. When the other students found Liang Wei as he came out of the simulation chess, they were all shocked. The Liang Wei in front of them seemed to be a completely different person, giving off endless fighting spirit and sharp edges. Chapter 750, Blackfire. "Boss, they've arrived," the subordinate respectfully reported. He licked his lips. His gaze when he looked towards the shadow was full of respect and awe. "Has everything been arranged?" A deep voice came from within the shadow. All arranged, the subordinate hurriedly responded. See them to the evening banquet hall. The subordinate was slightly shocked. Boss almost never met other people, and the number of people that saw Boss' true appearance could be counted on the fingers. He now found that he underestimated the importance Boss placed on these guests. He hurriedly lowered his head and said, I will go arrange it immediately. And go. An indifferent voice came out of the shadow. The subordinate turned and left. A red-haired youth stepped out of the shadows. His long and narrow eyes were deep and dark. The blue crystal at his brow occasionally flashed with light. He seemed to be one with the shadow and darkness. He had a thoughtful expression on his face. The present Yuqin Lai was far too changed from that rebellious youth of the past. He was now a famed person in the underworld. He had countless able people under his command, and he had amassed great power. Even the local factions had to give him some face. The name of Blackfire had some reputation in the underworld. As his influence increased, Yuqin Lai began to hide himself in the shadows and rarely made appearances. So when Yuqin Lai decided to hold a banquet for the guests, his subordinates were all astonished. However, these people were the most skilled at concealment and control. While they were extremely curious, they maintained their professionalism and did not show it on their face. In their eyes, Boss was unfathomable. This unfathomable was not referring to his individual fighting ability. Among Blackfire, Yuqin Lai rarely fought. No one knew how strong he truly was. However, every person was filled with respect and awe towards Boss. In the underworld, things like betrayal, assassination, and conspiracy would never end. However, no matter how carefully planned or well hidden the other's plan was, Boss had never failed to counteract it. Even facing a terrifying existence like the Council of Elders, he was still able to organize a withdrawal with all of them remaining unharmed and without leaving any trace. Everyone in Blackfire was filled with respect and awe towards Boss. His unfathomable and skilled way of acting, his vicious and ruthless style, his fairness to his subordinates, and the strictness of the organization. None of their missions had ever failed. Boss had a maturity and viciousness in his command that was beyond his years. In the eyes of the subordinates, Boss was born a king of the underworld. In a hidden estate that was heavily guarded, all the important people in Blackfire arrived. Chai Shanqing was scholarly in appearance with a faint smile hanging on his face. He wore green robes as though he was a teacher in a Yao art house. In actual truth, he taught music in a famed Yao art house and was well respected by his students. Who would have those? This elegant middle-aged person was the famed and vicious Blackfire's third in command. It seems that Boss is going to show himself. Chai Shanqing laughed lightly. The male beside him was completely wrapped up in a black robe. Only a pair of gray eyes showed. If one didn't see him with their own eyes, normal people would definitely not detect a person was there. The fourth in command of Blackfire, Wu Ying. He was skilled in sneaking and assassination. As a testament to his skill, innumerable powerful people had died by his hand. Wu Ying was silent as though he hadn't heard these words. Chai Shanqing was used to the other being so and said to himself with a laugh, I'm very curious about Boss' origins. Before he finished saying this, the feeling of cold metal rose against his throat. A sharp murderousness intent reached his neck like an extended dagger. He said with slight helplessness, Hey, I'm just talking, aren't you also curious? The murderousness disappeared as though nothing had occurred. Chai Shanqing had an expression of helplessness. He knew that Wu Ying was faithfully loyal to Boss. Wu Ying would unhesitatingly kill anyone that would threaten Boss. He couldn't help but mutter, You are so ruthless to treat me so. Wu Ying seemed to not hear it. A wondrous voice came from behind them. Stop fooling around, the guests are about to arrive. Chai Shanqing heard this voice and shuddered. Even Wu Ying's body imperceptibly tensed. An astoundingly beautiful woman walked over with a smile. The tight black evening dress emphasized her hot body, her arms bare, and the snowy dip causing people's blood to burn. She had curly blonde hair and a seductive presence. Chai Shanqing and Wu Xing feared her like she was a snake. She was the second in command of Blackfire, Tao Wei. Tao Wei threw a flirtatious look at the two before striding next to Yu Qinlai and docilely standing to one side. Yu Qinlai's narrow eyes were deep and his emotions hidden. He seemed to be the same as usual, but everyone present had a strong feeling that today was definitely an important day. Soon, a group of people were lead over under the guidance of a subordinate. Yet what shocked Tao Wei, Chai Qing-shan and the others was that Boss walked down from the stairs and moved to greet them. Even though they had been prepared mentally, they were still stunned when they saw this. "I am Yu Qinlai," a cool voice that one could not hear any emotion from. "I am Liang Wei." Liang Wei looked at the other warily. The other was not old, about the same age as him. The feeling of darkness on the other caused him to frown slightly. As a battle general, Liang Wei lacked any good feelings about people that moved in the shadows. "A banquet has been prepared, please come with me," Yu Qinlai said coolly. Finishing, he turned and walked away. Liang Wei hesitated slightly and then followed closely, saying, "You are too polite." The idleness of these past years had caused his interpersonal skills to improve. Walking into the yard, what he saw was simple and not luxurious as he had imagined. This caused Liang Wei to hold a slightly better opinion of the other. In his impressions, those factions of the darkness were usually ostentatious and lived luxurious lives. If the power he was serving was faction of the dark, Liang Wei would be slightly disappointed. He had always speculated which faction Pu Pu belonged to but had always thought of the major factions. In his view, a small faction could not possess or support such a strong battle general. Everyone sat in their seats. The other people did not think as much as Liang Wei. Pu Pu had recruited and persuaded them with simple conditions, a generous salary and money to establish a home. For these people, they were satisfied with being able to do what they liked and receiving rich rewards. Also, they had stayed for a long time at Pu Pu's home for battle generals and trusted its owner. Liang Wei was observing Yu Qinlai, while Yu Qinlai and his group were also observing the guests. Especially Chai Shanqing. He was elegant, and his words made people feel comfortable. While Liang Wei was wary, the other people with him quickly spilled the beans. Battle generals. These people were all battle generals. Chai Shanqing and the others were greatly shocked. In the world of darkness, there was no place for battle generals to exist. The world of darkness was a word filled with deceit, conspiracy, and assassination. The battles of the underworld was silent, and the people that lived in the same city as them would not detect anything. The factions of the dark that possessed battalions died out the fastest. The darkness was their best protection. Enormous battalions would cause them to lose the protection of the darkness and move the organization towards death. Only those truly public factions could possess battalions, would need battalions. Boss did have a background. At this time, the perceptive Chai Shanqing immediately recalled where he had heard the name Liang Wei before. The dismissal in his eyes disappeared. This young battle general that had been famed for a time had been recruited by the faction behind Boss. "The higher-ups have a few things they wanted me to tell you," Yu Qinlai said coolly. Liang Wei unconsciously sat up and said solemnly, "Please speak." The other people stopped conversing and perked up their ears. Liang Wei's commanders showed intent expressions. This was related to their future. "The base has been prepared. You will go and take the position of the highest commander of the battalion. All of the resources have been transported to the base. You need to finish selection and organization before the 12th month of this year. In other words, you have 6 months to build the battalion. At the 6th month of next year, you need to finish basic training and find the battle style suited to you. The higher-ups will forge Shin equipment according to your selected battle style." Liang Wei's heart shook slightly. The faction was able to forge Shin equipment. As expected, a big faction. Those that could forge Shin equipment right now were definitely big factions. The other people present inhaled sharply, especially Yu Qinlai's subordinates. They had guessed long ago that Boss had a background, but they hadn't thought that it would be so great. The delivery of equipment is temporarily set at 3 months. They hope that you can become battle-ready as soon as possible. When you are all outfitted, you may be sent out on campaigns. Liang Wei frowned. The time is too tight. A battalion is not so easy to build. The deaths will be great when a new battalion goes to fight. Yu Qinlai said coolly, then this is something you have to consider and prepare for. Liang Wei calculated inside. He did not argue. He had been prepared mentally. If the faction did have power and still used him, then the missions he received would not be a normal or easy one. He had prepared fully to the difficulties he was going to encounter. However, when he thought that this was the only way he could lead a battalion onto the battlefield again, he felt as though he was filled with endless energy. How long is the trip to the base? He asked. 13 days. Time is tight, let's move now. Liang Wei pushed away from the table and stood. They had all heard what Yu Qinlai had just said. Let's eat before leaving, Yu Qinlai said. We can eat rations on the road, Liang Wei insisted. All right. Yu Qinlai did not try to keep them. Quickly, under the ushering of the subordinates, Liang Wei's group hurriedly left. Tao Wei and the others stared at each other. They hadn't expected Liang Wei and the others to leave so quickly. Yu Qinlai sat down again. The other people saw this and knew that boss definitely had other things to say to them. They hurriedly sat down as well. Everyone, prepare, we are going to go to war against, snapped Red Silk. Yu Qinlai's words were like a huge bomb. Tao Wei and the others changed expression. Snapped Red Silk was not a small faction. Blackfire controlled only 13 Yaojies, and adding on the ones they had infiltrated, they only had 26. Yet, Snapped Red Silk directly controlled over 18 Yaojies. Snapped Red Silk was stronger than they were. Boss. Tao Wei couldn't help but say. She knew that this definitely was a mission that boss higher-ups had ordered them to carry out, but in her view, this kind of mission could not be completed. Do not worry, we are not fighting alone, Yu Qinlai said coolly. Everyone else couldn't help but shake. Chapter 751, Zhong Ru leaving seclusion, Shixiang. This is Cloud Si Jie. Yizheng said with a slight tone pride. Shixiang heard the pride in Yizheng's tone and was slightly surprised. A faint smile appeared on his pale face. This showed that Shidi had been living well these past years. Along the way, they encountered people who would stop and bow towards Yizheng. Each time, Yizheng would stop and seriously return the bow. Shixiang could see that these people's respect of Yizheng came from their hearts. This made him even more happy and comforted. Thinking back to the past, the image of that mischievous and stubborn youth was still in front of him. Ever since Master had passed away, he had brought up Shidi. After his cultivation had been destroyed, Shidi had seemed to become a completely different person who was hardworking. He had been happy at Shirdi's change but felt guilt and self-blame. When Shidi had disappeared and his fate was unclear, the blame had chewed on his heart. He could only use meditation every day to comfort his mind. Even though his cultivation was gone, his samadhi had grown. When Shidi had suddenly reappeared in front of him, his dhyana heart had been lost. I had passed on to them some dhyana cultivation advice. Their power at the time was terrible. At that time, I was an assistant to Master Zong. While I was busy, I was still very happy. Shixiang was on my mind all that time, but I didn't have a lot of money and I couldn't save to commission Shixiang's Lingdan. Yizheng was full of nostalgia and regret. He had gotten the Lingdan and given it to Shixiang, but there was no effect, so they had come to Mo Cloud C. In reality, when he saw the state of Shixiang's old temple where it sat half collapsed, the fury and discomfort he felt almost caused himself to lose control. Shixiang knew Yizheng well. Seeing the guilt on Yizheng's face, he knew and changed the topic subtly. Master Zhong? Is he also a dhyana Xiao? When Master Zong was mentioned, Yizheng became alert. Yes. Master Zong might be of an unorthodox background, but no one in Great Buddha Temple can compare to him. Oh, so strong, Shixiang said with a smile. He could see that Shidi was full of respect towards this Master Zong. Yes, Master Zong has reached wish power. There are not many in the temple that have achieved wish power. Yizheng looked around, and then said in a low voice, it is even the Buddhahood abandonment death wish. Shixiang shook in shock. Buddhahood abandonment death wish. These 4 words caused him to unconsciously stop breathing. While Ling power had transformed to Shun power, with the changing times, the Buddhahood abandonment death wish still caused people to change expression. Where is he now? A hopeful light suddenly appeared in Shixiang's eyes. If he could obtain guidance from this kind of master, maybe his injury would have hope. Yi Zheng was slightly dispirited. 8 years ago, Master Zong went into death seclusion and hasn't come out. Death seclusion? Shixiang's eyes were wide and his expression changed. The two phrases, Buddhahood abandonment death wish and death seclusion, caused him to imagine a fearless Diana Xiao, stubborn and not willing to give himself any other choices on his path for advancement. Yes, it would be good if Master Zong came out. Master Zong would definitely have a solution for Shixiang's injury. Fortunately, Master Zong's Buddha lantern has not extinguished, Yi Zheng said with slight regret and joy. Just as he finished speaking, a bright light appeared on the horizon. Everyone in the sky stopped moving and looked with shock into the distance. The light was blinding, but there wasn't any sound. A vast presence suddenly exploded. The cloud sea around the cloud island suddenly roiled and formed cloud waves of dozens of zhang each. The cloud sea roiled, the presence booming like thousands of snowy white monsters howling and snarling as they spread in all directions. Not good. Yi Zhen's expression changed slightly. In a flash, the cloud wave was coming at them like a collapsing wall, giving off a crushing feeling of being unstoppable. A light suddenly appeared on Yi Zheng's body. Faint golden-scaled armor rippled and covered his body. At some time, a Vajra scepter appeared on his hand. The golden mask on his face held imperceptible mirth like that of a Buddha. Shen equipment. Shixiang's pupils suddenly expanded. While the place he had been residing in had been isolated and closed off from the world, he had heard of Shen equipment. Yi Zheng lightly tapped the Vajra scepter towards his feet, his left hand held straight up as he chanted. Faint golden light rippled from below his feet and began to slowly cover the two of them. In a flash, a golden shield took form. Countless sutra characters swam like tadpoles on the surface of the golden shield. This was... Shixiang was filled with shock. Shurdis' power was extremely strange. He could not name it, but he was certain that it definitely was not something from Great Buddha Temple. Suddenly, two words flashed in his mind like lightning to illuminate his mind. Shin power. He did not notice that Shin equipment had also appeared on the bodies of the people around them because the astounding cloud wave was now right in front of them. Boom. The two were instantly drowned by the tall cloud wave. The golden light shield trembled, the sutra characters swimming even faster. Yi Zheng's eyes were wide and he was clearly fighting back with all his power. Shixiang's mind was roaming. He suddenly thought of how he had protected Shidi in the past. But now Shidi was able to protect him. It was a short moment of reminiscing, but time seemed to stretch as he watched Shidi. Yi Zheng's lack of expression showed that he was fighting with all of his power. Shixiang quickly refocused and closed his eyes. He had had high in cultivation before, once being one of the geniuses of Great Buddha Temple's younger generation. While he had lost his cultivation, he had spent all of his time on his samadhi, and his perception had become even more sensitive. Once he focused, he was slightly shocked. Shurdis' present strength was even stronger than he had been in the past. This astonished him. He knew Shurdis' talent, he did not have great talent. He himself in the past had been one of the most talented in the temple. Even in the present Great Buddha Temple, there were not many young people that had reached his past skill level. Shidi had grown to be so strong. A strange yet powerful power. Suddenly, he was filled with curiosity about Mo Cloud Sea. The cloud waves came endlessly. The two were like a wooden boat desperately swaying in the tsunami, unable to stay still. After making it through several cloud waves, Yi Zheng's body started to tremble, dense sweat appearing on Yi Zheng's forehead. Shixiang's expression became stern as he started to chant a sutra. His chanting was not loud, but each word was clear among the roaring of the cloud waves. Shixiang's chanting seemed to have a unique power to calm people's minds. Yi Zheng felt his mind calm down, his body stopped trembling. Threads of power suddenly appeared from deep within his body, and he became re-energized. At this time, a voice suddenly sounded in the sky. The howling roaring immediately disappeared. Scatter! The white cloud sea in the surroundings seemed to collapse and disappear like snow. In a flash, a figure with their palms together appeared in the sky. Behind him, there was the figure of a bald Buddha hundreds of zhang tall who also had their hands in a praying position with a solemn expression. Seeing that familiar figure, Yizheng's body shook, uncontrollable joy appearing on his face. Master Zong. Shixiang raised his face to look dazedly at the giant Buddha true form behind Zong Ru, his mind completely blank. When his gaze met with the gaze of the Buddha's true form, his body couldn't help but tremble. The pupils of the Buddha were gray. Zong Ru had came out of seclusion. The cloud sea shook. It has been so long since we came back to the Yao world, I really miss it, Song Zhe said wistfully. Most of the youthfulness on his face had disappeared, and he had become a much calmer person. Mingju Zi shook his head. I still feel that Cloud Sea Jie is better. I'm just remarking. Song Zhe laughed at himself. Of course Cloud Sea Jie is better. I heard that the Yao are in chaos right now. The infighting among the Council of Elders is great. While everyone is polite on the surface, it is a mess down in the lower ranks. Nan Yu did not make a sound. Listening to the conversation of the pair, her thoughts wandered. Were her friends from the Yao art house still all right? However, her thoughts were quickly interrupted by the noise coming from behind her. I'm telling you all, this time, you cannot block this genius road. Finally get a mission, Wah. It is time for this genius light to shine on the bodies of minuscule beings like you. The orange-haired Yao laughed heartlessly. Wen shot back with a cold expression, idiot. The black smoke Yao perceptively took 2 steps back to get further from the two. Trash, who are you calling an idiot? The orange-haired Yao glared angrily at Wen but then smiled smugly. I know this is because you are jealous. You lost to me last time, Wah. Your small and fragile heart received a destructive blow. I'm too strong. You only caught up and evened the score. Wen smiled coldly. If you don't believe me, ask Old Smoke. The orange-haired Yao stilled and then turned to ask the black smoke Yao. Old Yao, did I only catch up? The black smoke Yao gave a prepared answer. Before he had won 622 times, you had won 621 times. The orange-haired Yao immediately howled, How can it be so? How can it be so? Come, trash, let's fight now and see who is stronger. Let's go. Who's afraid of who? Wen did not retreat and stared back angrily. Nan Yu felt exasperated. How many times was it now on this trip alone? She turned her head. Boss said if you fight during the mission, you will be put under house arrest for 3 months. The two froze. The orange-haired Yao muttered, I'll let you off this time. If boss didn't protect you, I would let you taste your 623rd defeat. Wen responded, if boss didn't protect you, I will take your small life as easily as reaching into my pocket. The orange-haired Yao stilled. Who did you learn that line from? It seems very strong. Wen forced himself to not show his smugness but his tone still exposed it. Old Smoke. The black smoke Yao immediately knew it was not good. As expected, before he could react, the orange-haired Yao shot in front of him like a gust of wind. Old Yao, quick, think of a line better than that one. Suddenly, the group stopped and stared warily at the group in front of them. At the head was a youth that gave off a dark and cold presence. He stood silently. I have been eagerly waiting for your arrival. I am Yuqin Lai. Chapter 752, The Little One's Mo Cloud Sea started to secretly move. This kind of movement was concealed from the outside world. Even in these years of peace, people had become used to the movements of battalions and the unusual focus on cultivation. Silently, several battalions appeared at Blackwood Jie, which was under the control of Rare Artifacts Hall. Ever since Rare Artifacts Hall threw their lot in with Swar Mo, they attracted the enmity of other Mo factions. Out of consideration for safety, Mo Cloud Sea built large numbers of seal formation forts at their borders. But Rare Artifacts Hall was founded in business, and the transportation of their inventory was not affected greatly. The events of Buzhou City had caused them to become famous. After that, with the support of Mo Cloud Sea, The quality of their wares increased greatly and their wares were welcomed on the market. Even the Mo Martial Alliance bought large amounts of Mo weapons and supplies from Rare Artifacts Hall. Benefiting from this, their business avenues had always been smooth. Other than this, they continued to build blood pools to make the travel between the three jies of Rare Artifacts Hall and the other factions even more convenient. Transporting through blood pools was expensive, especially with large volumes, but it could greatly shorten the time spent and was much safer. Adding on that Rare Artifacts Hall was wealthy, they did not care about the expense of building blood pools. In one go, they built dozens of blood pools connecting them to the outside world. This meant that the Mo Martial Alliance was unable to cut off Rare Artifacts Hall from the outside, even if they wanted to. And, naturally, had to be present for such a great event as the arrival of their battalions. But when he saw Bihan was in the lead, he was still shocked. He immediately understood the importance that the higher-ups placed on this battle campaign. Among Mo Cloud C's battle generals, Gong Sun Cha and Bihan were of the same in status. While Bihan never managed any matters, his status was not something that other people could shake. Bihan was personally here, it definitely would not be a small fight. Darren. Ian immediately went forward to give a greeting. He was a core member, but he could not compare in status to Bihan. On the newest battle general ranking from the Xiuzhou world, Bihan was ranked 10th, an undoubted top battle general of the Xiuzhou world. The descriptions on the battle general ranking were detailed. The evaluators thought that Bihan's fighting abilities were astounding, his battle style dominant and fiery. He was strong offensively. The reason that he was ranked 10th was that his shortcomings in other areas were clear. For example, his soft skills were lacking and he did not take care or maintain relationships with his allies, or his reclusive personality. In the conclusion, Bihan was said to be a battle general with clear skills and shortcomings. He was strong offensively and weak defensively, and also, he was a battle general that needed strong support from the rear. This was also the reason that many people thought that Gong Sun Cha was better than Bihan. Gong Sun Cha's overall strength was more outstanding. He wasn't just strong at command, he was outstanding both offensively and defensively, as well as having taught a group of talented battle generals. There was no argument about his position on the battle general ranking. Almost all of the people in the battle general circles found it reasonable. But when the battle general ranking came out, the fact that Mo Cloud C possessed two top battle generals still caused a furor. However, when more of the details about Gong Sun Cha and Bihan's battles were made public, the voices of dissent gradually dissipated. On the newest battle general ranking, Zhongde from Xixian, who had come back out of nowhere, had directly stepped into second place, just under Kunlun's Xuedong. The rankings, which had not changed for a few years, finally changed for the first time. But even so, Bihan still held on to the position of 10th. Along with Bihan's Sin Battalion came Sherdong and Yiling's Grey Camp, Ma Fan and his Green Dragon Camp, a Zhagu Battalion, and Tongzi Battalion. Sherdong and Yiling had been partnered together for a long time and worked well together. Sherdong, who had once had a difficult time progressing in cultivation due to his birth, had been selected by Gong Sun Cha to the first group of battle generals to cultivate Shen power. He had treasured this chance. The strength and diligence he had shown won admiration from all the people around him. He had also improved rapidly and shockingly had moved into the ranks of gold battle generals. And a battle general like Yi Ling, who was skilled in understanding the larger picture, was a person that all the camps wanted. There was nothing to be said of the trio of Ma Fan, Lei Peng, and Yen Lu. They were also people that Gong Sun Cha had paid great attention to grooming. The three that had come from Vermilion Bird Camp did not fail Gong Sun Cha's efforts. Ma Fan was skilled in directing battle and successively advanced to become a gold battle general. Lei Peng was strong and was the one that led troops from the front. Nian Lu was detail-oriented and full of cunning. The three of them worked well together. Every time they fought in mock combat, they caused other people headaches. Zhagu had been a gold battle general to start with, and he was experienced in leading troops. As his clan set down roots in Mo Cloud C, and their lives continued to change, he could finally throw himself completely into matters of war. The style that Zhagu showed was frequently praised by Lil Mississippi. The main commander of Tangzi Battalion was Tang Fei with Miao Jun as the vice commander. Tang Fei was talented and Miao Jun taught her all he knew. Adding on Gong Sun Cha's occasional guidance, she grew up extremely quickly as she fought against other battle generals to become a gold battle general herself. While she was female, her fighting style was strong and tenacious. Influenced by her, the battle style of Tangzi Battalion was also very steadfast, and they never feared going toe-to-toe with the enemy. After the nurturing and training of these years, all of the battalions with names in Mo Cloud C had good strength. Bi Han was not skilled in being the commander-in-chief, but his insight into strategy and his perception when fighting was unrivaled by all in Mo Cloud C, except by Gong Sun Cha. He had thought deeply about the battalions he had picked to come with him this time. Grey Camp, Ajaga Battalion, and Tangzi Battalion were all battalions who had originated from the Mo territories. This was advantageous for their optics if they had them to attack the Mo territories. Green Dragon Camp was skilled in defense. They were selected in preparation for after taking down 100 Energy Jie and having to turn to defense. Such a large number of battalions entering Blackwood Jie could not be disguised from people. All kinds of news quickly spread. Many factions were like alarmed birds. They shut their blood pools that were connected with Blackwood Jie. Rare Artifact Hall's business was greatly affected. All the major factions of the Mo territories went on their guard. Yet what they hadn't expected was that Bi Han was faster than they had imagined. Before the news even reached the Mo Martial Alliance, Bi Han's group of battalions had already stepped onto the border of the Mo Martial Alliance. The heavy iron door was pushed open a crack. Lil Pagoda leaned against the door and panted heavily. It was clearly exhausted. Lil Fire flew around its head as though it was trying to motivate the other. Lil Black stood up on its hind legs, its antenna waving furiously as it tried to cheer on Lil Paget. However, Lil Black clearly was staying back. As it waved its antennae, it turned around to look. If something happened, it would immediately flee. Lil Pagoda rested for a moment and recovered. It climbed up and sneakily looked inside. Seeing that no one was inside, it immediately became happy, its eaves opening and closing like an umbrella. Then it sucked in its belly and tried to squeeze through the crack. Lil Pagoda's body was even rounder than before. Its body, which had been 5-colored before, was now black and white. Adding on its round and soft body, it appeared very much like a panda crouching there. This change had occurred the first time that Zhuo Shen power had made a great advancement. Yet Zhuo found to his chagrin that this guy became even fatter and more gluttonous after that. The things it liked to eat were far beyond the scope of the 5 elements. It ate everything and liked things that were rare and strange. Zhuo found, after inspection, that Lil Pagoda's attributes had shifted from the 5 elements to the dual attribute of yin and yang. The scope covered by yin yang was much greater than the 5 elements. This was a unique progression. Phew! Lil Pagoda was like a rubber ball that squeezed through the crack in the door. The moment it did so, its soft and bouncy body bounced through the air. It flipped over a few times in the air before it managed to steady itself. Lil Fire happily flew a few circles in celebration before it followed. It turned into a thread of flame and then turned back to its round figure after burrowing through the crack. Lil Black also sneaked in. The 3 Lil ones formed a triangle as they tiptoed like thieves. Suddenly, the light of a Jinji appeared under the feet of the trio. The 3 little bodies immediately froze. A figure walked out of the Jinzi's light. It was Zhuo. I finally caught you in the act. Zhuo had a vicious expression. These 3 little guys liked to eat the most and would never learn. Thinking about the Jingshi he had lost, Zhuo felt great pain. Arrow! Lil Pagoda raised its chubby eaves to cover its face. Lil Fire shook. It turned and wanted to feel but was caught by Zhuo. Then Zhuo started to squeeze it. It could only spit out threads of fire in humiliation and grievous anger according to Zhuo's rhythm. With one hand gripping Lil Fire, a snarling Zhuo was like a demon king in the eyes of Lil Black. Its antennae trembled. Pia, it fell back on the ground and pretended to be dead. Having caught the 3 little ones at the scene of the act, Zhuo was smug. He took the 3 little ones over to Chun Yucheng's place. Chun Shidi, here, Help me take a look and see if there are any ways to help them get stronger. Chun Yu-cheng's eyes were bright and he was interested by the idea. The three little ones all had different abilities and were much more interesting than his cloud steeds. Under Chun Yu-cheng's strange gaze, the three little ones had ashen expressions. The least courageous one, Lil Black, trembled as though it was about to face torture. Let's go in and see, Chun Yu-chen said briskly. Chun Yu-cheng's place to study husbandry was astounding in scale now. He took over a large-sized cloud island. Other than him, there were also his assistants that were also interested in husbandry. Some of them were Xiozha and some were Yaoma. They quickly came to a twin pool. The two pools were set up together and connected in the middle. The liquid in one pool was white and the other black. Mist floated off the white pool and turned into a cloud that supported a little white person. It was sunshine. There was a black lotus growing out of the black pool. On the inky black lotus, 10th grade dressed in black robes was sitting with his legs in lotus position, his little face solemn. They went deeper and flew to the entrance of a volcano. Inside the volcano, a large bird was completely immersed in the lava within. Silly Bird seemed to detect people coming in and opened her eyelids. Seeing Zhuemo, she closed her eyes with a safe and relaxed expression. Silly Bird. She was originally a gray-beaked goose and then evolved into a blue-beaked snow goose. Theoretically, the probability of her evolution is not high, but I found there is an unique power inside her. This power had been continuously strengthening her body. She is already completely different from normal blue-beaked snow geese. She is fierce and much more savage in personality than before. This allowed her to have more room to improve. When speaking of his field, Chun Yu-cheng immediately became energized and would endlessly talk. The quality of the earth fire here isn't bad, but it wasn't enough. I asked the people from Golden Crow Camp to come and remake the fire formation. The earth fire here is over 8th grade and contains Shin power. If it could finish its nirvana regeneration, while that is only for phoenixes, but I don't feel that only phoenixes can regenerate, you know that all birds. Seeing Chun Yu-cheng wasn't going to stop, Zhuemo's head swelled. He handed the three little ones to Shidi. Here, they are in your care. No problem. Chun Yu-chen's eyes lit up. Chapter 753, Commander-in-Chief Bihan. The first battle occurred suddenly. The Mo Martial Alliance had just been notified of Bihan's arrival and the order to be on guard had not reached the front line yet when the first fight between the two sides had finished. Bihan's full-speed attack had caught the enemy off guard. The battalion to make the sudden attack was Grey Camp. Sherdong's style was sharp and swift to being with, and after the improvement of these past years, Grey Camp under his command was like a sharp and thin knife that sliced through the not-so-tight defense of the other. This place was the border, but there were no important resources nor transportation routes, so the battalions stationed here were not strong. Facing Grey Camp that was outfitted with Shin equipment and well-trained, the defenses were quickly torn down after fighting for a few more moments. The battalions behind Grey Camp did not hesitate and moved at full speed according to the battle plan. Grey Camp, who had defeated the enemy battalion, divided into many smaller groups that started to sweep the area at the opening they had created and kill the scattered soldiers to guarantee the safety of their rear. When the battalions belonging to Rare Artifacts Hall arrived, they switched. Sherdong took Grey Camp and hurriedly marched to catch up to the main army. At this time, the resistance that Bihan encountered suddenly increased. One reason was because the Mo Martial Alliance now caught up and started to set down defenses. The other was related to the location of 100 Energy Jia. There was a Jia one had to pass through to get to 100 Energy Jia, Bright Mountain Jia. Unlike the barrenness of 100 Energy Jia, Bright Mountain Jia was a prosperous intermediate Jia. It was the place where many Jia rivers passed through. It had a large population and was rich in resources. Due to its unique location, the Mo Martial Alliance had stationed large numbers of battalions there to guarantee its safety. If one wanted to take 100 Energy Jia, Bright Mountain Jia was unavoidable. Therefore, the Mo Martial Alliance set up a complete defense line around Bright Mountain Jia. A little Bright Mountain Jia possessed 2 Mo Martials. The power it had could be imagined. Among the Mo, A battle general's strength was directly connected to their individual strength. MO marshals were almost always both battle generals and individual experts. This was related to their method of fighting. MO marshals cultivated Shin power and were limited in their accomplishments, just like the Fanshu of the Xiuzhe and the Sky Yao of the Yao. As young people talented in Shin power continuously appeared among the Yao and the Xiuzhe, the MO's upper levels were still held by the MO marshals. Because they could not progress greatly cultivating Shin power, their individual power continued to slip among the rankings of the three races. However, their command skill was not affected. Actually, while the effects of their Shin power on individual strength was limited, it was of significant help to one's ability direct in battle. As more and more MO cultivated Shin power, the construction of battalions silently changed. Of the two MO martial battalions that guarded Bright Mountain Jie, almost half of their members were strong in MO Shin power. In the MO territories, these two battalions were considered strong ones. Bright Mountain Jie was a hard bone to chew. The news the front lines had been defeated were passed back to Bright Mountain Jie, and all of Bright Mountain Jie went on their guard. When the identity of the commander-in-chief of this enormous MO Cloud Sea battalion group was revealed, all of the MO Martial Alliance inhaled in shock. Bihan, the 10th-ranked battle general, a battle general the MO were familiar with. They were unfamiliar with the majority of commanders under Bihan's command, but just the name Bihan was enough for them to feel strong danger. Sin Battalion Bihan. The two MO marshals of Bright Mountain Jie seemed to be facing a great enemy and did not dare to attack first. A person's name, a tree's shadow, the infamy of Bihan was something that people did not dare dismiss. The two MO marshals thought highly of themselves, but facing Bihan, they still lacked confidence. Fortunately, Bright Mountain Jie's defenses were outstanding, and they had both soldiers and supplies. If they persisted in not going out, the other would not have any other choice other than to attack. The two planned. They carefully set up defenses to increase morale as they asked for help from the rear. Bihan, who was leading multiple battalions, had more than just Sin Battalion. If he did not care about the price and attacked, the two did not have the confidence to know how long they would last. Fortunately, Bright Mountain Jie was very important to the alliance, and they believed the higher-ups would not ignore this attack. In the conference room, Sherdong's battalion had caught up and he arrived just in time for the strategy meeting. The conference room was unusually silent. No one made a sound. Everyone had been used to Lil Miss being at the front to lead the discussion. Now that it was Bihan, people were slightly used to it. Also, Bihan usually did not talk at all during discussions, like he didn't seem to exist at all. There was also another layer of thinking that everyone had. It had to be said that Lil Miss had been the one to teach and train them. Many of them didn't have any fame before this. Usually, Lil Miss had been in command at the center, and their trust of Lil Miss was unconditional. Bihan was a reclusive person and usually did not converse with them. He never said anything during a meeting. While they knew that Bihan was strong, but was he as strong as Lil Miss? Many people did not accept this. However, under Lil Miss' command, what was most important was following regulations. Bihan had been personally appointed by Zuemo. While they had opinions, no one dared speak them. They did not speak, and the discussion room was silent. Who among them didn't have a bit of a temper? Some people thought inside, if this was Lil Miss, the atmosphere would be heated. At this time, Bihan spoke, his voice just as icy as usual. Ajagu, whose thoughts had been wandering hurriedly, stood up and said gravely, "This subordinate is here. Your battalion will go to the area of East Nation Jie, Bright Home Jie, and West Mountain Jie. If you encounter battalions, you can either choose to fight or not." This subordinate's goal is? Ajagu was confused. Before the campaign, he had familiarized himself with the Jie map of this area. He knew where the three Jie were, but he didn't understand Bihan Daren's intentions at all. That area was far from 100 energy Jie with many Jie between them. Let them feel pressure. Bihan treasured his words like gold. Yes. While he did not understand, Ajagu still took his orders. Tang Fei. Bihan turned around. Here. Tang Fei stood up. Her expression was solemn. She had seen Bihan fight before and was probably the one that trusted Bihan's abilities the most. The goal of your battalion is East Spring Jie. The commanders present all had surprised expressions. East Springs Jie was far from 100 Energy Jie and they didn't seem to be related at all from the Jie map. However, the people present were not normal people. They all frowned and thought hard to find Bihan's intentions. Bihan did not seem to see the puzzlement on the commanders' faces. He had no intentions of explaining and continued to give out orders. Sherdong. Sherdong hurriedly stood up. Here. Hide in the area of Pulyuo Jie and Mighty Moon Jie. Do not let anyone detect you and wait for orders. As the orders were given out, the commanders stared at the Jie map trying to find clues and were frowning in thought. Bihan ignored them. He said, Ma Fan battalion will move with me. End of meeting, every battalion will move according to their orders. They refocused and stood to acknowledge. Yes. Finished, Bihan walked out of the conference room first. Once Bihan walked out, the conference room immediately became noisy. Who sees something? Speak up. I can't see it, this setup is very strange. Yes. It isn't reasonable at all. Tang Fei did not make a sound. She suddenly lowered her head to ask Miao Jun, Teacher, have you seen something? I see a bit but I cannot guess many of the steps. Miao Jun's expression was shocked as he said in a low voice. As expected of a top battle general. Bihan Darren doesn't usually show himself but when he does, it isn't ordinary. The MO Martial Alliance is going to have a huge defeat this time. Even we who know the goal cannot see through this plan. The commanders here were not stupid and could find some hints. But even so, they found it bewildering. They could not determine what Bihan Darren was going to do next. This discovery caused everyone to become silent. Bihan Darren, who was usually reclusive and did not have anything worthy of people to remark upon except his fierce offensive, intimidated them with one move. They finally understood that the difference in skill between them and top battle generals was bigger than they imagined. Mo Cloud C was moving and Zhou Mo was not idle. Someone had come from Shixian. In truth, Zhou Mo had not expected Shixian to send an envoy. He was Gu Liang Dao's most faithful ally. What was Shixian sending people here for? To cause a discord between himself and Gu Liang Dao? Zhou Mo did not understand but he still decided to meet the other. The leader of the envoy was a middle-aged person called Jian Jun. He was of average power, but he was elegant and had presence. Mr. Zhou is really accomplished at a young age. Having conquered so much at such a young age, it makes those like me sweat. Jian Jun praised. Mr. Jian is too complimentary. What have you come for? Zhou Mo did not want to waste words and said directly. Jian Jun stilled at Zhou Mo's directness but he was a person who could adapt. Seeing this, he said directly, we have come to visit Mr. Zhou this time for two matters. Seeing Zhou Mo show a listening expression, he said, the first is that we hope to order some Shen equipment from you. Order Shen equipment? Zhou Mo stilled for a moment. He hadn't thought that Shixian would order Shen equipment from them. Yes. The MO Cloud system Shen equipment is stronger than any other, Jian Jun said with a friendly smile. It will be best if you can design new Shen equipment around our Shen power. We are willing to pay the corresponding expenses. Design Shen equipment? Zhou Mo was 7 more stunned. He looked suspiciously at the other. Tailored Shen equipment, you will need to provide your Shen power cultivation method. This is not a problem. Jian Jun's expression was normal as though he was talking about a simple matter. Other than the day of completion, everything else can be negotiated. Zhou Mo felt as though he didn't have enough brainpower to use. Shixian had come to order Shen equipment and were willing to provide their Shen power cultivation method. This was clearly the secret of each sect that should not be told to anyone else. What was going on with Shixian? Chapter 754, Alliance with Shixian. Jian Jun seemed to be speaking of a common everyday matter, and smiled naturally. He said, before we left, Zhong Darren said that Shixian is weak now. Kuan Luan and Tian Huan are greedily watching from the sides. The 9 great Diana sects look numerous, but they are divided and their power is scattered, only appearing strong but will scatter when they face pressure. Only Mo Cloud C is a viable ally. While they do not have many soldiers, they have strong commanders. They do not have a great amount of land, but they are wealthy, their potential can be anticipated and are a possible ally. Zhong Darren is too complimentary, Zhua Mo politely responded. Jian Jun smiled slightly. My Shixian has been weak for a long time, our elite have left us. If there is no help from outside forces, then we will not be able to fight off Kunlun and Tianhuan. Mo Cloud C is in a remote location. With the 9 Great Diana sects as barrier, there are no worries in the short term. Yet once Kunlun and Tianhuan swallow Shixian, each will possess almost 2 realms of power and be unstoppable. Darren predicted that if it gets to that point, with the 2 sects sending soldiers, the 9 Great Diana sects will collapse with little resistance. At that time, Mo Cloud C will have no place to retreat. The 9 Great Diana sects can surrender, but Mo Cloud C cannot. Zhuo changed expression. He had to admit that Zhong De's prediction was accurate. The 9 Great Diana sects were a group of rabble if they could not unify under one banner. If Kunlun and Tianhuan had just average abilities, they might try to fight back. If the 2 big sects really ate Shixian, just their presence would be enough for the 9 Great Diana sects to surrender without even fighting. The hate between Mo Cloud C and Kunlun had been spread far and wide a long time ago. Everyone knew of the great hate between Mo Cloud C and Kunlun. The crux to stopping Kunlun and Tianhuan was not the 9 Great Diana sects, but Shixian. Zhuo had thought of this before, but at that time, there was no hope to be seen in Shixian. The sudden appearance of Zhong De had given new blood to the rotting Shixian. Jian Jun continued to speak. I heard some things about Mr. Zhu's birth. Darren feels great sympathy and has executed everyone involved in that incident. Also, Darren has given me the duty of returning this item to Mr. Zhu. This item that belongs to the Zhu family is today returned to Mr. Zhu, to its owner. As he spoke, he took out a strangely shaped item. This item was extremely unique in shape. It was about the height of a person and was like a tree branch cut off from a tree. The main trunk was curved and there were 5 forks that crisscrossed. The item was made completely from metal. Even after a few decades, it was still shiny like it was new. This is the part that we obtained in the past. The other 3 are in the hands of Kunlun, Tianhuan, and Xian Kong Temple. While returning this cannot undo the past, we have already taken care of the elders involved in the matter. However, we do not hope to receive your forgiveness with this. We only wish to sincerely express our apologies, and to show that Shixian is willing to take responsibility for this matter. Jian Jun's expression was stern and his tone solemn. Zhuo looked at the Shin device part and was in a daze. Shixian had not faked this item. When Jian Jun had taken this out, Zhuo had felt the presence of a Shin device. In his few memories, this strangely shaped thing had appeared a few times. Thank Zhong De Darren for me. Zhuo refocused, his expression normal. The scenes that had flashed through his mind caused his emotions to shift, but he quickly calmed his mind. As the leader of the entire Mo Cloud C, every decision could influence the future development of Mo Cloud C. There are no problems about the alliance and ordering Shin equipment. But both understanding your Shin power and designing Shin equipment will take time, Zhuo said. A hint of joy flashed across Jian Jun's eyes. He unhesitatingly took out a jade scroll. This is the Shin power of our sect. I will give this to you now. Zhuo speedily read through it. After thinking for a moment, he had a general grasp of their method. The work to design the Shin equipment will take about 2 months. The price will only be known after the first ones are made. Jian Jun then asked, is it possible to finish 30,000 Shin equipment before the 8th month of next year? Zhuo said after a moment of thought. It is difficult to produce 30,000 in 1 year, but there should be no problems for 20,000. Jian Jun said unhesitatingly, good. At least 20,000, no matter how many you will produce, we will take all of them. No problem. Zhuo said crisply. This was a very profitable transaction. If they had 20,000 Shin equipment, Shixian's power would increase greatly. Zuoremo was happy to see this. Also, such a large order would cause Mo Cloud C's forging skills to go up another level. This was killing multiple birds with one stone. Jian Jun suddenly spoke. There is one matter we will request of Mr. Zhua. Please speak. Zuoremo had to admit that while Jian Jun was not strong, but his style and his way of speech made people feel pleased. Ah. Jian Jun sighed lightly. We want to ask Mr. Zhua to pass on a message. A message? Zuoremo stilled and then understood. Gu Liang Dao. Yes, Mr. Zhua, please give this letter to Gu Liang Dao. This letter was personally written by Zhong de Darren. Jian Jun passed over a jade scroll, but his expression was slightly awkward. Zuoremo seriously received the jade scroll. He said with a nod, I will definitely give this to Brother Gu. Thank you, Mr. Zhua. Jian Jun's smile was slightly forced. A talent of the sect had betrayed and left the sect due to being forced by the sect. This was not something to be proud of. Mr. Jian is too polite, Zuoremo said. The two then discussed the problem of setting up transportation formations. After setting up transportation formations, they would be able to travel freely. While it was expensive to move large volumes, it was the safest method at present. Both of them knew this. Once they opened the transportation formations, the wards of Mo Cloud C would flood into Shixian. This would affect Shixian greatly, but the present Shixian had no power to manage this. What was in front of them was an even more dangerous and cruel future. Organizing their combat forces was their most urgent need at this moment. Before leaving, Jian Jun said with a serious expression, Mr. Zhua, you need to pay attention to Kunlun and Tianhuan. While Mo Cloud C is the best at forging, Kunlun and Tianhuan are not lacking. Recently, Kunlun and Tianhuan having been seeking ancient ruins, and Kunlun found the remnants of an ancient Shen device. They have started to plan forging a new Shen device. This information immediately attracted Zuomo's attention. Is there anything more specific? No. Jian Jun shook his head. We only know that for this device piece, 3 of Kunlun's elders lost their lives and the sect leader was heavily wounded. Zuoremo was startled. This price was great even for Kunlun. Shen devices have developed quickly. Maybe in a year or two, everyone will have distanced themselves again, Jian Jun said concernedly. Taking from the past is better than closing the doors and creating from within. You will need to pay more attention. If we have information of ancient ruins, we will notify you. All right. Zuoremo nodded. Jian Jun's words made him have nothing to say. The beginning of a new era was usually when development occurred the fastest. Slacking off for a time meant that some people might be forever pulled down. Unlike the completeness and maturity of the Ling power system, Shen power had just been reborn. While the general picture could be seen, the details were still crude. Kunlun was willing to spend such an astounding price. This meant that what they obtained surpassed this price. Zuoremo felt strong danger. Gu Liang Dao was silent after reading the letter. Big brother, did that old man Zhong De say something ugly? Shuang Yu couldn't resist asking. Gu Liang Dao shook his head and handed the jade scroll to Shuang Yu. Shuang Yu took the jade scroll. His expression was spectacular after he finished reading, and then he handed the jade scroll to Xiao. Gu Liang Dao laughed self-mocking. He's inviting us back, he will give up his position, and will clean out all opposing factions. Is this fake? Shuang Yu hesitated to say. No matter what, the contents of the letter were not something he could believe. It's true. Gu Liang Dao's gaze was slightly dazed. The internal conflict and pain appeared in his eyes. Then should we return? Shuang Yu asked excitedly. He believed that if Big Brother returned to Shixian to take power, Shixian will definitely come back from the dead. Xiao, what do you think? Gu Liang Dao suddenly asked. Xiao was silent for a moment and then said, It is hard to say. Zhong De says he only has 3 years left. It probably is not a lie. It is also not a lie that he will abdicate the power because only we can save Shixian. So up until now, he killed so many people but didn't touch any of those close to us. Gu Liang Dao continued to be silent. But after? Xiao said calmly, once Zhong De is dead, Big Brother has the power, and then? The sect leader can tolerate Zhongde, but can he tolerate Big Brother? Shuang Ye's expression froze. He became silent. The sect leader is skilled in enduring. The elders have held power and controlled Xixin for so many years, yet the sect leader did not make a sound. Looking back now, the sect leader may have let them. The sect leader might have moved in the shadows for Big Brother to be forced out of the sect. No way. Shuang Ye's eyes were wide, his expression disbelieving. Xiao smiled coldly. The sect leader was young when he took the position and could not stand up to the elders. He was forced by the situation. Think of what the sect leader has done all these years, free and taking pleasure, not asking about the matters of the sect. Look at what the sect leader did this time. While he is not a murderous person, he is a cunning one. Zhongde was gone for more than 50 years, yet he was able to uproot the elders and their support in the span of one night. This cannot be accomplished by just killing people. You mean to say, Shuangyu was not stupid and understood. Without someone familiar with the situation, he definitely could not have done it. The sect leader had probably started to investigate the elders from a long time ago. Supposedly, half of the sect leader's guards were killed. It is terrifying that he managed to endure for so long. Xiao's voice was cold and emotionless. It would be fine if this letter came from the sect leader, but it came from Zhongde. Zhongde has great power, and the sect leader will go along with him. What about after Zhongde is dead? What do we have that will let us fight against the sect leader? So what? We aren't afraid of him, Shuangyu muttered. Xiao smiled. Why should we? Right now, our situation is not bad. Our land is not large, but our foundation is not bad. Why should we go back to endure? Xiao is right. The shadows in Gu Liangdao's eyes were swept away. We only knew freedom after coming out. I am not willing to turn back. How can we believe him? But our relatives are in Zhongde's hands. How can we get them back? When they had fled, the relatives of most of his subordinates had been arrested. Getting these relatives back was a great problem that was related to their foundation. Xiao smiled confidently. This matter is not difficult. Zhongde has not killed them, so he will not make things difficult for us by using them as hostages. However, we need to ask Brother Zhuo for help on this. Brother Zhuo? Gu Liangdao's eyes lit up and then his praise left his mouth. Yes. Chapter 755, Shen Device Part Zhuo Mo was surprised by the attitude that Xixin showed, but he quickly understood what Xixin intended. Just like how Xixin was the crux to restraining Kunlun and Tianhuan for Mo Cloud C, Xixin's only ally in the Xiuzhou world was Mo Cloud C. After reading through Xixin's Shen methodology, Zhuo Mo understood why Xixin hadn't kept it a secret. No wonder people said that the true ancestor of the 5-element Shen power was the reverse 5-element Shen methodology that Shuangyu had created. In Zhuo Mo's view, Xixin's 5-element Shen power was middling and lacked any exceptional qualities. If a normal sect had created this Shen methodology, it naturally would be outstanding, but with Xixin's status as one of the 4 great sects, it could be seen how sparse its talent was to have created this mediocre Shen methodology. However, Zhuo Mo did not help them advance the Shen methodology. He did not dare to underestimate a foundation thousands of years old. Even a rotten boat had 3/10 of its weight in nails. If they had the time, who knew if they could recover? A powerful Xixin definitely would not be willing to be Mo Cloud C's ally. After thinking for a moment, he called the 2 masters and gave the jade scroll to them. Disdainful expressions appeared on the 2 masters' faces. They naturally looked down on a Shen methodology of this level. There were not many that knew that Mo Cloud C had more than one Shen methodology. Every person's cultivation base were different, because Zhuo Mo's camp had a lot of Xiuzhou, Yao, and Mo. With Zhuo Mo's Mo Cloud Shen methodology as the basis, there were many methodologies that branched off. Zhuo Mo himself encouraged the creation of these, and would even help them perfect these Shen methodologies. He didn't hide a thing. In this kind of an environment, the 2 masters were knowledgeable about Shen power and looked down on normal Shen methodologies. Xixin has declined as expected. This Shen methodology is just worth so much. Master Sun Bao said without any courtesy. Ji Wei smacked his lips and said, "It would be good if we can get a hold of Kun Lun's and Tian Huan's Shin methodologies. Those two might have some good insights." Hearing the two masters' tone as though they were looking down on the world, Zhuo Mo couldn't help but smile. He then said, "Using Shi Xian's Shin power to design Shin equipment, is 2 months enough?" 2 months? Sun Bao dismissively snorted. "Half a month, only half a month." "Half a month?" Zhuo Mo had a doubtful expression. Sun Bao met Zhuo Mo's doubtful gaze and jumped as though he had been slighted. "Darren, if you don't believe me, old Sun is willing to be punished according to military law." Ji Wei's face and neck was flushed as though he had been greatly humiliated. Zhuo Mo jumped in fright at the two's reactions. These people were so proud. However, his attention quickly was attracted by the promise of half a month. "If that's the case, how many sets can we make before the 8th month of next year?" Sun Bao thought and said, "It depends on how we make them. If we use all of our power, 50 to 60,000 will not be a problem. However, that is only if we give up on all other missions." "Without affecting the other missions?" Zhuo Mo continued to ask. 20 to 30,000, Master Sun Bao sighed in relief. He didn't want to waste his time on forging these Shin equipment. There were countless mysteries in the world of Shin power waiting for him to explore. "Is this a large order?" Ji Wei suddenly said. For the 8th month of next year, Shi Xian will take as much as we make." Zhuo Mo nodded. Sun Bao immediately asked, "What's the price?" Ji Wei's attention was also pulled over. The two's eyes flashed with light. While Gong Sun Cha was the main economic force of Mo Cloud C, they also spent the most. Zhuo Mo never spared what he invested into Golden Crow Camp. All kinds of high-level materials, all kinds of trials, he allowed them to do what they wanted. It was only Zhuo Mo's unlimited investment that caused Golden Crow Camp to become so powerful. This could be seen from the flames they used to forge. In the past, only core members would have 4th-grade Golden Crow fire. Now, this had been spread to become the standard flame for the outer members of Golden Crow Camp. If they were willing to enter the cadet organizations, they would be gifted Golden Crow fire. The Golden Crow fire was harvested from the Golden Crow macro formation. While it was not as expensive as it was in the past, it still was significant. Distributing it so widely meant it cost a great amount, but Zhuo Mo never complained about this kind of investment. This directly caused the forgers from many places to furiously flood Mo Cloud C. Later, in order to stop this outflow of talents, Kun Luan and Tian Huan had to increase their benefits for production Xiuzhe. However, Mo Cloud C had already gathered a great number of production Xiuzhe. 4th-grade Golden Crow fire. So many people would save for their entire lives but not be able to buy it. Golden Crow Camp was literally a monster that ate gold. The two masters were extremely sensitive to price and profit. The price will be dependent on your design. The profit margin will be initially set at 200%. Once Zhuo Mo opened his mouth, he was immediately exposed as an evil businessman. Master Sun Bao was familiar with forging and said rapidly, "A set of Shin equipment's basic cost is around 57th grade Jingshi. 200% profit margin, that is 157th grade Jingshi. That's about right. The power of the Shin equipment will reach about 80% of our Mo Cloud system." Ji Wei's eyes were bright and his breathing slightly rushed. "Big business. If it is 20,000 sets, that is 2 million 7th grade Jingshi. No, we have to make at least 30,000 sets. There are ways to increase production." Sun Bao thought as he spoke, "Right now, there are many low-level forgers with Golden Crow fire. We can have them first forge the ingots for the Shin equipment. That way, it will save us a lot of effort. Our Shin fire pool is about to be completed. It will be able to be used to improve our efficiency. We can reduce production time. This way, we should be able to produce 40,000 sets. 4 million 7th grade Jingshi." Even Ji Wei, who had seen great amounts before, couldn't help but exclaim and inhale sharply. That was a terrifying number. If this spread, it would make all of the Xiuzhe world boil. Zhuo Mo's face was flushed, but he did not let the enormous number go to his head. He said with a snicker, "We will not take Jingshi, we will take materials. Jingshi is being depreciated now, and the prices of materials is increasing. This way we will get everything out of Xixin." Sun Bao and Ji Wei furiously nodded. Ever since they entered the era of Xin power, the use and value of Jingshi continued to decrease. It was not something essential for people to cultivate. The biggest value of Jingshi came from the Ling power it contained. Yet in the era of Xin power, the greatest pursuit was of Xin power, not Ling power. Conversely, as a result of the fighting, the prices of materials had risen greatly, especially high-grade materials. The prices grew so fast it seemed they had a new price every day. If Sui Mo and the others hadn't secretly moved everything out of Xian Kong Temple's Diana Treasure Pavilion, and all of the high-grade materials that Xian Kong Temple had accumulated over thousands of years had ended up in his hands, he would not have been able to support Golden Crow Camp's terrifying expenses. Most of the high-level materials in Gong Sun Chaz, City Destroyer, and Bihan's, Arsonist, came from that. The reason that Sui Mo had not forged Shin devices was not because he didn't have the ability, but he did not have the resources. Each Shin device required a pile of high-grade materials each that were worth cities. After forging 2 Shin device raiments, almost all of Mo Cloud C's high-grade materials had been used up. Even Kun Luan and Tian Huan did not dare to casually forge Shin device raiments. Shin device raiments were the ultimate weapon of this era. It represented the peak of forging for this era. Sui Mo had thought deeply about forging City Destroyer and Arsonist. Agay already had a Shin device raiment, that gray set of armor that Sui Mo named the Undying Ghost. Sui Mo also had the Anti-Dragon Claw and the 3,000 Thread of Worry. While the sum of them together could not equal a Shin device raiment, they could compare to pseudo-Shin weapons. Also, Sui Mo thought that City Destroyer and Arsonist were of greater use to Mo Cloud C. However, for million 7th grade Jingshi was enough to forge a true Shin device raiment. The excitement the three felt when facing this number could be imagined. "I will leave this matter to your care," Sui Mo said. Sun Bao jumped up and said excitedly, "Darren, do not worry, this subordinated definitely will not let even one of these 4 million pieces of Jingshi walk away." Ji Wei nodded. "I'm confident in your work. However, pay attention to keeping this a secret. Don't let people find out too early," Sui Mo ordered. The two hurriedly acknowledged this, and then impatiently bid farewell to leave. It was impossible for others to be completely unalerted to a project of such scale. Mo Cloud C was filled with spies from all factions. While extermination was occurring constantly, these spies were like weeds that would never stop growing. As long as this matter was not exposed too early, there was no great worry. Watching the two leave, Sui Mo's face unconsciously turned to that Shin device part shaped like a tree branch. His eyes flashed with emotion. As though she detected his emotions, Agui silently appeared behind Sui Mo. The scars on Agui's faces had disappeared. Her face was like the one that Sui Mo had once seen in his memories. Her face was still expressionless and the mark on her brow was unusually clear. Her undying Shin power had become even more unfathomable. "I'm fine." Sui Mo turned to smile at Agui and then rubbed her hair. Agui's empty eyes became gentler. "Let's go to see." Sui Mo pulled Agui to walk towards the corner. The empty corner suddenly pit up and Sui Mo and Agui disappeared in the light. Sui Mo and Agui appeared in a secret room. There were many things stored in these secret room. Many of the items showed marks of being burned and damaged. They also looked old. There was a helmet placed at the end of the room. The helmet was dim. Dozens of thin and long bone spikes fanned out in rows behind the helmet. At the top of the helmet, there was a crescent thin blade coming out of the forehead that arched over top and wrapped around to the back of the helmet. This was another part of the Shin device raiment that his father had forged. It had been placed in Xian Kong Temple's Diana Treasure Pavilion and then landed in Sui Mo's hands. The things in this secret room were all things that Xian Kong Temple had taken from his home in the past. When Sui Mo came near, the dim helmet suddenly lit up with a gentle light. Sui Mo stilled and his mind moved. He took out that tree-shaped Shin device part. The helmet suddenly shook, the dozens of spikes trembling as it gave off a hotter light. Zhuo suddenly felt pain on his hand and he instinctively let go. The tree branch turned into a streak of light and flew to the bright helmet like a bird returned to the nest. Chapter 756. The uninhibited Chao Xen. Zhuo looked at the strange thing in front of him and was greatly interested. The forked tree branch part of the devices was now pointed downwards and the main trunk was connected to the back of the helmet. Zhuo examined it for a while and found it increasingly familiar. He thought hard before he finally recalled what this was like. If the helmet was a person's head, then the main branch that led down from the back of the head, wasn't it a person's spine? And the forked branches that split off, weren't they like the small blood vessels and channels? The more Zhuo looked, the more he felt it was like that. Suddenly, Zhuo was extremely curious about his father. This kind of design was definitely unique. Even in this era where Shin devices were constantly appearing, it still was unique. He was even more curious what the other two parts looked like. What would the complete Shin weapon look like? What kind of power would the complete Shin weapon have? Zhuo suddenly had a feeling that his father was a great person. This Shin device was too unique. Even though Zhuo had forged the angle device raiment, a pseudo-Shin device, he still felt stunned by the incomplete two-part product in front of him. There were no indications of how it was forged on its body. There were no Shin glyphs or seal scripts. The tree-like structure seemed to have grown naturally. The helmet was tightly melded and didn't show any signs of being forged. Those long, strange antennae-like things were something that Zhuo still didn't know the use of. He tried to pick up the newly merged Shin weapon. It was unexpectedly light, as though there was nothing. A ball of light suddenly lit up at the end of the antenna. The light flashed to a certain rhythm that was hard to understand. The level of this Shin weapon far surpassed the level of the present Shin weapons that had appeared. To an innocent man, wealth is a crime. How could the Zhuo family which possessed such a Shin device not be targeted by other people? Zhuo sighed. He focused on the half-Shin weapon in front of him. After the two parts merged together, they seemed to come alive, and occasionally released light. Zhuo tried to channel in Shin power. Boom! He felt the surrounding scenery change. Information flooded into his mind. Off guard, Zhuo's body froze, his vision turning black. He only recovered after an unknown length of time. Phew! He tasted sweetness and then spat out a mouthful of blood before his chest felt less congested. He couldn't help but show a shocked expression. In Zhuo's sea of consciousness, Wei would have been motionless all this time suddenly opened his eyes. Pu Yao also felt something and suddenly stood up. Don't try that again. Wei's words stopped Zhuo. With a warning, Zhuo put the incomplete Shin weapon down with lingering fear. He didn't dare to try again. With his previous attempt, he had been lightly wounded, and almost 7/10 of his Shin power had been used up. His scalp pricked at this result. He hadn't even detected the loss of his Shin power at all, and it was 7/10. There was too much information inside the Shin device, so much that it surpassed his tolerance and injured him. But no matter how he thought back, he could not remember a word. This thing. However, Zhuo quickly noticed that Wei had woken up. He entered the sea of consciousness with a grimace. Wei, you finally woke up. When Wei opened his mouth and started nagging. Zhuo, I said that you have to be careful, why don't you listen? You're a leader now, how can you be so rash? You have to know, if your Shin power was just a little bit weaker, you would have been sucked dry, your life would be finished. Listening to Wei snattering, Zhuo felt warm and a smile came onto his face. Pu Yao impatiently interrupted him. Enough, how come I didn't feel that you were an old woman before? You are the great gravestone armor, you have dignity, show your presence, don't be like an old woman. Wei stilled and then instinctively nodded. That seems right. But he quickly reacted, what about an aura like yours that isn't male or female? Pu Yao was furious. Who are you saying isn't male or female? Wei said deviously, not me. I'll kill you. Pu Yao smiled in anger, the black flames on his body shooting into the air. The black flames in the sea of consciousness exploded as well. Pu Yao rampaging in the sky. Wei didn't have any fear at all. His expression was sunny but his mouth poisonous. If you can't kill me, you are a Rinyao. Zuoremo almost fell onto his face. He wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. As expected, Wei was the more devious one. Two tigers fighting would affect the bystander. Without a second word, Zuoremo silently slipped away. Not long after he came out of the sea of consciousness, Zuoremo received Gu Liangdao's letter. After reading it, he guessed what the issue was, but it was not for him to express opinions on this matter. Also, the favor Gu Liangdao requested of him was a simple matter for him. Gu Liangdao wasn't willing to return to Shixian, and this was most likely because he saw that Shixian was in difficult straits. The situation was not something that one person could change. He shook his head and his attention turned back to Mo Cloud C. The present situation was also a great pressure on Mo Cloud C. With Shixian's massive order, Mo Cloud C could enter a time of fast development. As long as they overcame the obstacle of materials, the powerful production abilities of Mo Cloud C would be able to be expressed. For the present Mo Cloud C, if they worked steadily, if they finished accumulating in this time, their power would change. While Zuoremo had a good plan, other people would likely hamper his efforts. Shixian and Mo Cloud C have established an alliance. The report of the subordinate caused Lin Qian to raise his head. His expression was normal. Is the information true? This is intelligence from the spy inside Shixian, the subordinate said respectfully. We cannot get close to Zhongde and does not have direct evidence of this, but Zhongde took out the Zhua family Shen device part from Shixian stores. We detected traces of its movement. They are willing to pay a great price. The one that spoke was an elegant youth with red lips, white teeth, and ethereal long robes. His voice when he spoke carried an unique slowness. He was called Chao Exin and one of the members of Lin Qian's inner sword pavilion. In the sword pavilion that Lin Qian had built, every position was coveted. Countless elders used their connections in hopes that they could arrange for their disciples to enter. Everyone knew that the sword pavilion would become the true core of power in Kunlun's future. If they could enter, they would undoubtedly enter the true core of Kunlun. Yet Lin Qian had resisted the suggestions of the masses and picked an unknown disciple, Chao Exin. Chao Exin was born into poverty. While his parents were Kunlun disciples, they were outer disciples. He appeared very poor in the eyes of the public. Also, Chao Xin's individual cultivation was stunningly weak. He entered the sword pavilion with Zhuji cultivation. This was the first in Kunlun's history. What was also unexpected was that Chao Exin's ranking was high. The first person that Lin Qian picked was Xue Dong, the second was Chao Exin. This unknown outer sect disciple immediately multiplied in value and was watched by countless. Rather than shining like people had expected, Chao Exin gradually faded out of view and didn't seem to have any existence to speak of. Only the true higher levels of Kunlun knew the great power this youth controlled. Yes, the subordinate hurriedly said. This time, the envoy was Jian Jun. This person is not strong but skilled in diplomacy. He was promoted by Zhongde. It was the people from Abyss Jail that protected him on his journey. We could not discover what they discussed. Chao Exin said casually, pay attention to the movement of their resources. Zhongde is careful, but he just came out of seclusion, and the power he wields in the sect is limited. These tasks are ones that he has to rely on the people below to do. Yes, the subordinate acknowledged and then left. Lin Qian didn't feel any displeasure at Chao Exin giving orders. He frowned and said, if Shixian and Mo Cloud C have allied together, it will affect us greatly. Chao Exin took a sip of wine and savored it for a moment before speaking. The most correct move that Shixian has made up until now was to get Zhongde to come out. However, one cannot stand alone. Zhongde is strong but he is just a battle general. Our entry point should be Shixian's sect leader. I looked at the reports on him. He became sect leader at a young age, but Shixian has been controlled by the elders. One can imagine just how discontent he felt. A person like this will desire power far more than other people. Look at this move, he almost cleaned out all of the elders. Lin Qian listened carefully. As he listened, he poured wine for Chao Exin. His movements were practiced. This was clearly not the first time he was doing so. Chao Exin sipped happily, his expression uninhibited as he drawled. Right now, Shixian's power is concentrated in Zhong De's hands. He can tolerate this because the situation is severe. Only Zhong De can control the situation. He needs this knife. This is the common speculation. However, I feel that it is not so simple. It is not possible that Zhong De would not have thought of this. I investigated this person especially. This person is very interesting. On one hand, he values promises and friendship. On the other, he can do anything, be cruel and kill easily. 50 years ago, his woman was pulled into an incident and died. He lost his passion and asked to guard the Abyss jail. He grew up in Xixian from a young age and owed the past sect leader. However, the past sect leader of Xixian did not help him with that case. Therefore, Zhong De's emotions about the sect leader are slightly complex. However, no matter what, the matter of his woman is still something he thinks about. This can be seen from him immediately building a tomb after coming out. He cannot be loyal to the present sect leader, but he still decided to come out, still helped the Xixian sect leader finish the purging. This caused me to come up with a new theory. What theory? Lin Qian was interested. He knows what the present sect leader is like, yet he still helped the other complete the purge, still came out of isolation, still had himself become a blade for the other, and take full control without any qualms. There are two possibilities. One, he wants to kill the sect leader and become the ruler of Xixian. Or he knows that he will not be a threat to the sect leader even if he does this. Chao Xin's eyes were bright, his tone slightly excited. If he wants to kill the sect leader, the best time would have been when purging the upper ranks, with the loss of half of the sect leader's personal guard. The counterattack from the elders was enough for the sect leader, lacking protection, to die. And it would be something accepted and his reputation would not be stained. But he didn't do that. This is matching to his personality. While bloodthirsty, he has his bottom line. The other possibility is something worthy of discussing. He has such great power, yet he is not a threat to the sect leader. That only occurs in one possibility. He knows he won't live long. A dead person will be of no threat to anyone. Lin Qian changed expression. Chapter 757, Danger. Leaving in the night, they avoided the armies stationed along the way. Making a long detour, the Tangzi battalion appeared near Eastern Spring Jia like ghosts. Because Zhua Mo had to have 100 energy Jia, they had spent more effort gathering information on the surroundings here than in other places. This allowed Tang Fei to easily avoid the enemy's troops stationed here. The Mo Martial Alliance would never think that Bihan would target Eastern Spring Jia. Unlike the other Jia that were heavily guarded near 100 energy Jia, Eastern Spring Jia was just as guarded as usual. How long until we arrive in Eastern Spring Jia? Tang Fei asked gravely. The long hair of the female blew in the sharp cold air. Her stern face was filled with determination and her tone firm and strong. According to our present speed, we will arrive at the outer defense line of Eastern Spring Jia at approximately tomorrow afternoon, the subordinate calculated before answering. Tang Fei looked around. Seeing that everyone's energy was good, she nodded inside. The rest last night had been important. The recovery of the battalion's energy was in preparation for the battle tomorrow. Every soldier had been outfitted with a high-grade Mo steed. The cloud steeds that Chun Yucheng had bred were better, but their production was limited and not available to be distributed to the Mo soldiers. The wealthy Zhua Mo decided to give them high-grade Mo steeds. All of them were 7th-grade fire-stepping hell horses. They were tall, their hides completely black and their eyes dark red. Their hooves were wrapped up bright red flames. The fire-stepping hell horses were outstanding for their endurance, suited for long journeys. They were vicious and not afraid of battle. They were a good fighting Mo steed species. Increase the scouts by 30 teams. Pay special care as to not alert the enemy. Tang Fei ordered. The subordinate hurriedly passed on her orders. Miao Jun looked on with a smile at his student. The past Tang Fei caused people's eyes to light up, but she had not been so methodical and calm like now. In these past years, he had spent almost all of his energy to teach Tang Fei. He was extremely satisfied with Tang Fei. Even in Mo Cloud C that had many geniuses, Tang Fei was still exceptional. When he thought of this, he couldn't help but feel emotional. If he wasn't part of Mo Cloud C's inner core, he could not imagine the strength Mo Cloud C had in their battle generals. Any of them would be a person that could take control of a region if they were of another faction. What he felt even harder to believe that the great majority of these talented young battle generals had been unknown before joining Mo Cloud C, and many were not even battle generals before. Tang Fei's strong voice interrupted his pondering. Eastern Spring Jie is not an important Jie, and stationed there are 4 battalions led by Mo generals. It is not difficult to take it, and then we can threaten the Sun Mountain and Eastern Might defense line. There are many important Jie concentrated in the region, all of them resource Jie for the Mo Martial Alliance. They have stationed many soldiers there. We will encounter attacks from multiple fronts. Miao Jun listened to Tang Fei's analysis. Bi Han Daren's goal is naturally not those places. The most likely reason he has us attacking Eastern Spring Jie is to diminish the others' ability to reinforce Bright Mountain Jie. A Zhag's task should be similar to us. From the position, it seems that a Zhag, us, and Bi Han Daren form a triangle. Bi Han Daren is the corner at the front. Sherdong's use is the hardest to guess. That place is a target that has no value. Tang Fei had a puzzled expression in her eyes. Seeing this, Miao Jun smiled and said, "Let's continue this talk after taking down Eastern Spring Jie." Tang Fei still and said embarrassedly, "Teacher is right." Her expression turned stern, coldness rising on her determined face. She silently raised her right hand. The scouts had encountered enemy battalions. The commanders around her immediately turned serious. Orders were quickly sent down. The team leaders became alert, shouting rising in waves. They urged on the Mo steeds under them, moving into formation. The Mo soldiers behind them quickly adjusted as well. The troops which had been swiftly moving quickly changed. Within 10 breaths, the shape of the troops turned from a marching formation to an offensive battle formation. Tang Fei urged the Cloud Steed under her forward. Her Cloud Steed was a silver Thunder Cloud Steed. Compared to the large brawny and vicious fire-stepping hell horses, the Thunder Cloud Steed seemed much thinner. It moved elegantly at a measured pace, its entire body covered in dark blue cloud patterns. Tang Fei appeared at the front of the entire battalion. After 7 years, the Tongzi battalion had expanded to 3,000 people. The crowd of dots in the horizon became clearer as the enemy approached closer at a rapid rate. Tang Fei's face seemed to be made from granite and was unmoving. However, that pair of calm eyes burned with fighting spirit. She lightly tapped the Thunder Cloud Steed under her. The Thunder Cloud Steed knew its master's intention. It whinnied, lightning exploding off its body as it suddenly accelerated. Without any hesitation, the entire battalion accelerated in unison. The Shin equipment on each Mo soldier suddenly lit up. Mo Cloud Shin power moved at the same time, gathering through the levels, from the Mo soldiers to the Mo captains, from the Mo captains to the Mo colonels. After being tempered, they gathered to Tang Fei. The Tongzi battalion seemed to be one being, a ball of furious Shin power, like a great axe being swung in the hand of a giant. And Tang Fei, shrouded in lightning at the front of the troops, was the silver edge of the axe's bright blade. The opposing Mo general paled, but the two sides were too close to order a change. There was no time for them to turn back. The Mo general knew that this was not the time to hesitate. If he did, they would perish. Charging forward would be their only chance of living. He gritted his teeth and then suddenly shouted, "Kill!" The power gathered on his body, yet it could not give him the usual feeling of safety and confidence. The two floods of bodies neared at an astounding speed. The Tongzi battalion was like a sharp and powerful axe that cut into the other's battalion. The enemy's power was as fragile as paper in front of this heavy axe, not able to withstand even one attack. Everywhere it passed, blood and flesh flew. Anyone that was even touched would be torn apart. In a blink, Tang Fei saw a sliver of light. She knew that she was about to penetrate through the other's battalion. Without any hesitation, Tang Fei released her control of the power gathered on her. The savage power suddenly exploded with the Tongzi battalion as the center. She had timed it perfectly. The power that suddenly lost its restraints was like a bomb exploding inside the enemy battalion's ranks. It threw up blood and limbs, and the others' ranks were completely thrown into chaos. The disorganization of the troops meant that power could not be effectively gathered and controlled. If its enemies still maintained their battle formation, then what waited for it was the fate of being slaughtered. In comparison, Tang Fei was clearly more skilled. After finishing such a strong charge, her battalion ranks were not disordered in the slightest. She didn't need to reorganize her battle formation before she started a second charge. This battle was determined already. Lin Qian was stunned by Chao Xin's daring speculation. A long time later, he slowly spoke. If this is true, then it is a piece of significant news. Shi Xian will not continue. Chao Xin's expression was relaxed. No matter if Zhongde lives or dies. If he lives, a conflict will occur between the sect leader and his best battle general, Zhongde, who is not of one mind as him. If he's dead, without Zhongde, Shi Xian will lose its greatest shield. How will the sect leader prop up Shi Xian? I don't believe it. Unless Gu Liang Dao's trio is willing to return to Shi Xian. However, I do not think that the Shi Xian sect leader is willing to tolerate them. A person who has lost power for decades has a far greater possessiveness about power than normal people. Gu Liang Dao, he is a strong and proud person, is he willing to bow his head? These few years are the strongest years of Shi Xian. The light of the sunset will always intoxicate people. Lin Qian was thoughtful. He nodded. Yes, Mo Cloud C is the one more worthy of wariness. Yes. Chao Exen put away his frivolous expression and turned serious. The one truly worthy of guarding against is Mo Cloud C. Mo Cloud C is filled with life and it is progressing. This is not something that Shi Xian, a sinking ship, can compare to. If the two ally, the one that benefits the most is not Shi Xian but Mo Cloud C. Mo Cloud C. Lin Qian murmured to himself and then smiled helplessly. He said, I had not thought that Mo Cloud C would grow to something that we would have a headache about. Mo Cloud C does have weaknesses. Chao Xin's eyes flashed with light. He said with a cold smile, from the surface, Mo Cloud C is small but strong. It possessed the two great battle generals ranking top 4 and top 10. It has strong battalions, many experts. It is strong in forging and wealthy. Yet it has a great weakness. It lacks a person who can manage its internal affairs. Lin Qian thought. He really could not find anyone in Mo Cloud C that was famous for managing affairs. This weakness will not be evident when their territory is small. But if their possessions expand 10 times, no, only 5 more times, they will be a mess. Chao Exen was filled with great intelligence. 60-something Jie and 300-something Jie has several levels of difference in the difficulty in management. Lin Qian's eyes lit up. Chao Exen had clearly worked hard. This is a hidden weakness if they do not resolve it. Once they start to expand, this weakness will become fatal. We are expanding. If they do not follow, they will fall even further behind us. At that time, they wouldn't even have the chance to fight back. If we increase our expansion speed, they only have one choice, expand. A snake that gorged itself to death. They know they will die from overeating but have no other choice. Lin Qian smiled. It seems that we need to give them a bit of pressure. Also, they have another weakness. A cold light flashed through Chao Xin's eyes. They rely too much on transportation formations. The 9 great Diana sects sent people to sneak to the transportation formations to take control. Fortunately, eldest Shixiang Wei Xing was nearby and quickly arrived. He killed more than a dozen Diana Xiu before they retreated. The others' infiltration had been planned for a long time. Even the Jinji around the transportation formations were unable to stop them. It could be seen how strong the enemy was. Looking at the corpses on the ground, Zhou Mo who hurried here inhaled in shock. Most of Mo Cloud C's connections to the outside world were through transportation formations. While they were expensive, they were convenient and fast to build. For the wealthy Mo Cloud C, this was not a great problem. In the past, nothing had ever happened to the transportation spots. How come someone had sneaked through this time? After walking around the transportation spot, Zwa Mo finally understood the reason. There was a complete set of jinji set up around each transportation formation. In the past, when everyone cultivated Shin power, the jinji was enough to guarantee the safety of these transportation formations. After entering the era of Shin power, everyone's power had grown tremendously, but the jinji had not changed much. This imbalance caused the previously safe transportation formations to become extremely dangerous. Zwa Mo immediately recognized the severity of the problem. Golden Crow Camp had focused almost all of its power into the Shin devices and the Shin equipment. He had not thought that there would be a weakness in the jinji. This had caused the development of jinji to fall behind. The only one that could be used was the King's Forbidden Firmament. However, this set of jinji was so expensive to set up, so difficult, that it was not realistic for the many transportation formations that Mo Cloud C had. Zwa Mo's first thought was to close the transportation formations. But he quickly rejected this idea. The transportation formations were Mo Cloud C's only connection to the outside world. If they closed the transportation formations, then all of Mo Cloud C's products would be unable to be transported out, and they would be isolated from the world. That would be a fatal blow to Mo Cloud C. Chapter 758, Cutting One's Flesh, and Inspirations. Where Mo carefully inspected the corpses on the ground. They aren't bad. Wei Sheng's words rang an alarm for Zwa Mo. Those that could be called not bad by Wei Sheng Shixiang were definitely not weak. It is Heart Leaf Diana sect, a guard carefully reported. Darren rarely had a dark expression like this. Heart Leaf Diana sect? Zwa Mo's eyes flashed with a cold light. Yes. These people are not wearing Shin equipment, but they cultivate Heart Leaf Shin power. Darren, take a look. Finishing, the subordinate forced open the hand of a corpse. There was the mark of a tree branch with a leaf on the palm. Darren, this is the mark of Heart Leaf Shin power. They have reached the level of 1 branch 1 leaf. 1 branch 1 leaf? Zwa Mo asked. When Heart Leaf Shin power reaches a new level, their mark will grow and add another leaf, the person said respectfully. You know a lot. Zwa Mo asked in surprise, what's your name? This subordinate is Jin Da Wei. The guard was slightly embarrassed. This one's duty is to inspect the merchant caravans that travel through here, and I have heard some things in the process. Oh, then speak. What other information is there on Heart Leaf Diana sect? Zwa Mo stood and asked interestedly. Jin Da Wei had a hesitant expression. Zwa Mo smiled and said, it's just chatter, and I'm just listening. Jin Da Wei finally spoke. This subordinate coincidentally heard the manager of a merchant caravan mention that Heart Leaf Diana sect secretly consorts with Tian Huan. This subordinate felt they were slightly suspicious and paid attention to them secretly. I heard this from their members. Why did you find them suspicious? Zwa Mo seemed to be more interested in Jin Da Wei. This subordinate found that they were going around and asking questions, especially about Shin equipment and Shin power. They also asked about the general location of Golden Crow Island. The range of items they brought was wide. They bought a few of everything but not many of any particular item. They did not seem like business people, Jin Da Wei explained. The admiration in Zwa Mo's eyes grew. This person did not have an attention-catching appearance, but he was perceptive and he was a careful person. This was a talent. He then asked, what do you think of this matter? Jin Da Wei knew that Darren was testing him and immediately focused. After a moment of thought, he said gravely, they are very familiar with the jinji and probably have come before to study them. There were not many people in this attack, just 20, they did not have any reinforcements. It seems more like a probing mission. After he said this, Jin Da Wei's expression turned ashen. He was frightened by his own conclusion. Zwa Mo's expression turned dark. There are about 98 transportation formations to the outside world. In 20 or so jie, these outer border jie have been labeled. There was a jie map in front of Gongsun Cha. Almost all about the outermost jie were labeled in red. Because Mo Cloud C's connection to the outside was almost completely reliant on the transportation formations. 98 transportation formations, 22 of the outermost jie. On average, each jie had more than 4 transportation formations connected to the outside. Of these 98 transportation formations that go to different jie, 42 of them are to Xiuzhi jie that are not connected to Tianhuan and Kunlun. These 42 jie are mostly from the 9 Great Diana sects and some smaller powers. These factions are easy to infiltrate, and the transportation formations have become a fatal weakness for us right now. Gong Sun Cha raised his head to look around. The most secure method right now is to relocate the transportation formations. The best option is to gather the transportation formations and designate specific business jie where we will station troops to guarantee their safety. However, there are also problems with this plan. The expenses in setting up new transportation formations will be huge, and this way, the cost of many of products will increase as well as reduce our offensive abilities. Zuermo had a grimace. Gong Sun Cha's method was possible, but just as he had said, the investment would be enormous. Transportation formations that could move large volumes for long distances were expensive. Even with Zuermo's wealth, he had only accumulated these 98 transportation formations after 7 years of development. If he had to rebuild so many transportation formations, the amount of money he had to spend was a great sum. This was a relatively safe plan, but it was too expensive. The price is too great. Zuermo shook his head. We do not have the capital. Everyone nodded. This plan cost too much. In their view, even if they took over all these jie, they didn't need to spend so many jingshi. Gong Sun Cha also knew that this plan was not realistic and continued, we do not need to guess what will happen next. Kunlun and Tianhuan will use our weakness by infiltrating the other powers and harass our transportation formations, even destroying them to destroy our connections to the outside world. Inhales sounded in the conference room. Those with the slightest bit of knowledge understood how great a blow it would be to Mo Cloud C if the situation came to that step. The problem is that even though we know what they will do next, we do not have many solutions. Lil Miss' expression was black. He had originally thought that they built Mo Cloud C to be impenetrable and hadn't expected that they had left such a fatal weakness. At this time, a paper crane suddenly appeared in Zuermo's hand. After Zuermo unfolded it and read through, he said coolly, 3 transportation formations were attacked at once, and 1 was destroyed. The conference room was deathly silent. Everyone had black expressions. Zuermo knew that Mo Cloud C was in a dangerous situation. At this time, he had to make a decision. Other than the crucial transportation formations, close all others, Zuermo said deeply. Angry flames burned in his eyes. His heart dripped blood. The closure of each transportation formation meant the loss of large amounts of jingshi. Mo Cloud C's economy was about to receive a great blow. For little Mo Gu, whose wealth was his life, this was like cutting his flesh. Breaking someone's path to riches was akin to killing one's parents. Zuermo's face twisted in pain. He was completely infuriated by the enemy's actions. If we have to suffer losses, then everyone will suffer with us. How can we be the only to lose? Zuermo gritted out. Our transportation formation Jinji have problems. Their transportation formation Jinji will also have similar problems. They can infiltrate and destroy, we can do the same. When had Mo Cloud C ever been defeated like this? Hearing Zuermo's words, flames of anger rose in the eyes of the people who had been feeling frustrated. Zuermo was unusually angry. His eyes flashed with burning light like a wolf in the darkness. They will regret starting this. Yes. Lil Miss' black expression returned to normal and a smile like that of the neighbor's boy came back. This kind of small-scale infiltration is actually more advantageous for us. We have a smaller territory and is easier to defend. They are larger and there are openings everywhere. It will be difficult to prevent infiltration. Also, we do not need to limit ourselves to transportation formations. Attack any storage depots, any resource jia. If we get to their rear, we can cause pandemonium. Lil Miss' words immediately opened a door. All kinds of inspiration rose. Yes, we can assassinate important people. It is more profitable to assassinate those people who are not in high positions but are very important. For example, the masters in charge of managing production. Their guards will not be strong, the danger is low, and the benefit is high. Disrupt the peace. Ambush transportation boats. There's a place that you all forget, the place that teaches battle generals. If we get that, that place is rich. Maybe we can end a future genius battle general. That would be profitable. We need to plan for escape. We need to divide and conquer. The conference room that had just been deathly silent was now in heated discussion. As he listened, even Zuemo, the start of all this, felt a cold wave up his back. How could these people be so devious? Bihan looked at the paper crane that came from the rear and then crushed it before throwing it to the side. Have the Jinji been built? The construction has finished, Ma Fan responded. He was filled with puzzlement. Darren had acted the opposite of his usual strategy and built large amounts of Jinji here as though he was building a great defense line. Report on the progress of the battalions. Bihan's voice was icy. Ma Fan shook and then hurried to report. The Tangzi battalion have already taken eastern Spring Jie, finished reorganizing, and are waiting for next orders. A Jaga battalion need 3 more days to reach their destination. However, they have already been detected by the scouts from the Mo Martial Alliance. The Grey Camp have arrived at the ambush spot without attracting any attention. Is there any movement from the reinforcements at Bright Mountain Jie? There are 2 Mo Martial battalions, one of them is 7 days away, the other further away, and will most likely arrive in 20 days, Ma Fan reported. Ma Fan had fought alongside Lil Miss since a long time ago, and always admired Lil Miss' powerful calculation. This time, when he followed Bihan, he found to his shock that Bihan was also precise and accurate in this field. Tangzi battalion will keep resting, a Jaga battalion will follow the original plan. Bihan's orders were clean and brisk. Yes. Ma Fan hurriedly answered. You are stationed here. Your mission is to stop the enemy battalion from making any sudden attacks, Bihan said. Yes. Ma Fan crisply acknowledged. Then he carefully asked, Darren, I will attack the reinforcements. Bihan treasured words like gold. Ma Fan's face turned white. Bright Mountain Jie has 2 Mo Martial battalions. Just guard the defense line. Bihan was expressionless. Ma Fan finally understood why Darren had built this defense line that seemed completely unnecessary. However, even with the defensive line, when Ma Fan thought of the 2 Mo Martial battalions they were facing, he still felt a great pressure. Even though Ma Fan's battalion was one of the best in defense from Mo Cloud Sea, he had never fought against a Mo Martial battalion before. Any battalion led by a Mo Martial was astoundingly powerful. However, Bihan clearly did not intend to explain more to him. He led Sin battalion to disappear in the darkness. Chapter 759, Wolfhead Thousand Monster Camp, Im Fei Lei. Fei Lei was surprised by Liang Wei's youth, but he quickly disguised the surprise in his eyes. I am Liang Wei. Liang Wei could see the others' surprise, but he did not care. No matter who it was, they mostly reacted the same way when they saw his youthful face. Fei Lei's weathered face was filled with an experienced and steady presence. This caused Liang Wei to be filled with anticipation towards his battalion. Fei Lei did not like to waste his words. He said directly, Please come with me. The group entered a concealed mountain valley. Through the narrow mouth of the valley, the space suddenly broadened out. A wave of noise came, the shouts of youths, and Liang Wei's heart beat uncontrollably. Entering his view were thousands of youths furiously cultivating. The white mist from the evaporation of sweat, dirt flying into the air, angry shouts and curses, constant explosions, the activity assaulted Liang Wei's senses. Liang Wei entered a daze, and Fei Lei's voice sounded distant to his ear. They are all individually outstanding. At the beginning, they cultivated Mo skills and then changed to Shen power. Each of them has a unique bloodline, and they do not have any barriers in the area of cultivation. They have progressed quickly. Up until now, they are still in the stage of rapid advancement. The length of this stage will be based on their age and talent, from about 3 to 10 years. Fei Lei was completely familiar with these youths that he had traveled over mountains and oceans to find and teach. They are outstanding in power compared to those of their age cohort. They can even match the disciples of those large sects and the prestigious families. We have excavated the power they possess in their blood. This is also the help that I can give them. However, regretfully, they are very immature as a battalion and can only create a basic formation. Liang Wei refocused and was surprised. From his observation, these youths were, as Fei Lei said, outstanding individually and a match for the elite battalions that he had seen before. So many good talents, how could their higher-ups miss them? He didn't know the power of his higher-ups, but he knew that the mysterious faction would not lack for battle generals. At least Pu Pu himself was very powerful, and he would not be ignorant of the value of these strong, outstanding youths. It did not require a strong battle general to carry out normal battalion training. However, his idleness in these years had sharpened his self-control. He asked without a change in expression, "Do they lack a battle general to guide them?" A grimace flashed across Fei Lei's weathered features. He shook his head, "That's not so." As expected, there was a problem. Liang Wei showed an intent expression. Fei Lei said coolly, "Their bloodlines were activated, which caused their individual power to skyrocket. Their Shin power cultivation benefited even more. However, the activated bloodlines caused their hidden personalities to take over, and they are very strange now." Strange? Liang Wei had a puzzled expression. Fei Lei glanced at Liang Wei, a hint of sympathy flashing through the depths of his eyes. "Yes, very strange." He pointed randomly to a youth sitting in meditation in the corner. "He is Ing Rong. He will meditate for 14 hours each day without exception. Anyone that goes within 10 zhang of him would receive his unconscious and indiscriminate attack." Unconscious and indiscriminate. Liang Wei gaped, his expression shocked. Fei Lei seemed to not see Liang Wei's expression and said, "That's his instinct. While he will sincerely apologize to you after the matter, you may not be able to hear it then." "Why?" Liang Wei stilled. "Because if you are not seriously injured and unconscious, you are likely dead," Fei Lei said expressionlessly. "Look." As he spoke, he picked up a stone and threw at Ing Rong. The rock drew out a crescent in the air and flew within 10 zhang of Ing Rong. Ing Rong, who was in a meditative trance, shook and then opened his eyes. Shockingly, his eyes were completely white with no pupils. He jumped up and gave a strange snarl. Midair, his body suddenly gave off countless blade-like red energies. Hundreds of red energies headed like a storm towards the rock flying at him. The fist-sized rock was immediately turned into powder. Ing Rong's body bounced and flew back to his original spot back in meditation. The powder drifted down. Liang Wei's mouth was open, his expression dazed. Ing Rong's problem is not that bad because other than the 14 hours in meditation, there is 10 hours where he is in a normal state. Fei Lei pointed at a half-naked large man. "He is Guang Long. He has the rare dragon bloodline that causes him to enter a berserker state. Once his battle lust is stirred, he will tear apart everything around him. It is very dangerous to spar with him." Guang Long's body was like a metal tower, his muscles bulging and giving off a great pressure. His blood-red eyes moved around as though he was hunting for prey to fill his stomach. After a moment, Liang Wei said in a rusty voice, Are all of them like this?" Fei Lei nodded. "Give or take. They are born with the power of the bloodline, and the dangers come as well. However, there is one thing you can be certain of. They listen to orders. Of course, that's when they are normal." The battle generals around Liang Wei that had accompanied him had ashen expressions. In their eyes, these youths were dangerous monsters that would consume them at any time. "We wanted to be battle generals, not beast trainers." They cried tears inside. They greatly regretted agreeing to taking this job. Many people had the impulse to chop off their hands. Why hadn't they resisted the temptation of the rewards? They should have thought of this. Anyone that pays a wage has a black heart? Liang Wei's expression gradually recovered from being pale. Then a vicious look flashed through his eyes. The wolf battle general who had once gone alone into the enemy released that blood-stained killing intent and determined presence once he made his decision. A look flashed through Fei Lei's eyes. He was shocked. It seemed this person that the higher-ups sent this time was someone good. The other battle generals were stimulated by that sharp and vicious killing intent. They finally remembered that Liang Wei was not the same as them. He was a battle general who had truly experienced the cruelest of fighting. The youths that were training were all sensitive and immediately noticed the astounding killing intent. They stopped and looked over. Who was this person? He clearly looked so weak, but he possessed such a murderous presence. Liang Wei smiled and showed his wolf-like teeth that seemed to have blood on them. This battalion will be called the Wolfhead Thousand Monster Camp. What's Bihan's goal? Quan Pei tried to make his voice sound normal, but people familiar with him could still hear the anxiety contained within. His second-in-command had been with him for many years and could hear this in his voice. He couldn't help but be shocked. This was the first time he had seen Darren so unconfident. Was Bihan so strong? He thought and then asked, "What is Darren worried about?" Quan Pei was tall, and his hair was white in places. He was not young, but his presence was elegant and gave people an endearing feeling. He was not young when he became a marshal and didn't have the desire to compete with others. Due to this, he did not hesitate when he was invited to join the Mo Martial Alliance. He was not outstanding among the Mo marshals of the alliance, but he was a steady person with a good and gentle nature. Due to his popularity and his familiarity with the military, he was assigned to an important position. Quan Pei knew his abilities. He knew that he wasn't some great general, and so he did not compete. Even in these turbulent times, he hoped that he could peacefully live out his remaining days and benefit his descendants. He had never thought that there would be a day that he would be forced to face a top battle general like Bihan. In these past years, the Mo territories had completely changed. Many of the old great names continued to disappear, and many unheard-of names shone and ascended in this new era. Quan Pei knew he was old in age and could not keep up with this changing era. Just as he knew that nothing good would come of this mission. Bihan was a person that was ranked as a top 10 battle general in the Xiuzhi world. This showed his power. This was a true top battle general. Battle generals of this level were not ones that he could win against. In the Mo Martial Alliance, probably only the young battle generals of the new era, like Shi, Shang Yusheng, and Hai Jinyun who would match him. Quan Pei grimaced inside. 7 years, a change in era. Marshal D and the others were still the leaders, but they all knew that with each passing day, they got closer to the passing of the torch, the death of an era. Shen power was the root cause pushing all this. It could be seen from the inner structure of the alliance. The higher-ups started to deliberately set up a path for the new generation that cultivated Shen power. More and more young people started to take up important positions. The Mo Martial Alliance was not the only one. Most of the Mo powers were doing the same. The only exception was the Mo Shen Temple. Shang Yusheng Battalion and Hai Jinyun Battalion were racing to reinforce this area. The alliance also knew that Quan Pei alone could not stop Bihan. Nothing, I am worried about nothing. Have everyone stay alert and be on their guard. Quan Pei exhaled deeply, his voice finally returning to normal. He was an experienced battle general. He knew how great the damage to the battalion's morale was if the main commander did not appear calm. He only needed to delay Bihan and fight for the time needed for the reinforcements to arrive. When he thought of this, he felt slightly more confident. Shang Yusheng and Hai Jinyun were the genius battle generals that had appeared in the Mo Martial Alliance in these past years. They were young but possessed unparalleled talent. They had proven their strength in cruel battles. If it wasn't for them, the expansion of the Mo Shen Temple would be even more difficult to restrain. The two of them were top battle generals as well. If he could delay Bihan, 2 top battle generals were about to arrive. Bihan definitely would not have it easy. Maybe they could kill Bihan. Quan Pei was filled with confidence in the 2 genius youths of the alliance. Suddenly, Quan Pei, who felt slightly more reassured, looked into the distance and his pupils contracted. An intimidating battalion had silently appeared on his right flank. Be Han. Chapter 760. Zhong Ru and I Ching Yizheng's expression was nervous and concerned. He didn't dare to look away from Zhong Ru's face. Zhong Ru's appearance had changed greatly. While Zhong Ru had been of average appearance before, he had a strong body like most Diana Xiao. Yet now Zhong Ru's body was thin, his cheeks sunken. Only his eyes were bright as though he could see through everything. There was always a small warm and friendly smile on his face. The red lotus on his forehead was like holy fire. Zhong Ru's withered fingers moved away from Yizheng's Shixiang's body. Master Zhong, how is my Shixiang? Are there any solutions? Yizheng's heart was in his throat. Yizheng's Shixiang also opened his eyes, which flashed with shock. Actually, he had been greatly shocked when he saw Zhong Ru. The other's thin body had clearly been caused by the constant corrosion of wish power, but that pair of shining eyes seemed to pierce straight into his heart. It was the first time that he had the feeling that someone was unfathomable in power. And when Zhong Ru's two fingers touched his wrist, the gentle and pure Shen power caused him to feel a rare comfort and made him relax. There are no big problems. Zhong Ru smiled, his voice filled with a comforting power. Yizheng's heart immediately calmed. Joy came onto Yizheng's face. I just knew that Master Zhong could heal Shixiang. Zhong Ru smiled slightly. A jade scroll appeared on his hand that he handed to Yizheng's Shixiang. This is a record of some of the things I learned during my seclusion and a method to cultivate Shen power. As long as you cultivate according to this, in a short time, you will heal. Your skill in Samadhi is rare and will be beneficial to your cultivation. Zhong Ru then turned and said to Yizheng, cultivate together with your Shixiang. If you have any questions, ask your Shixiang. Many thanks, Master Zhong. The two gratefully thanked him. Zhong Ru waved his hands. There's no need to be so courteous, but you will not be able to tell others of this cultivation method. The two gravely acknowledged with solemn expressions. A moment later, Zhong Ru suddenly raised his head and with a deep gaze said, in a few months, your wounds will start to recover. There is something that I want to ask of you. Yizheng hurriedly said, Master Zhong, please speak of any matter. Yizheng's Shixiang also said, Master Zhong, please tell us. In our Mo Cloud Sea, the Diana Xiao branch is weak. Other than myself, there are no others with significant achievements, Zhong Ru said with a smile. My path as a Diana Xiao was rocky, and only received good fortune after meeting Darren. I only managed to develop this after seclusion. If I hide this method, it will be a great pity. Darren also wishes to increase the number of Diana Xiao in Mo Cloud Sea. However, I have no mind for this matter and so will ask the two of you to carry it out. Yizheng scratched his head. There are too few Diana Xiao in Mo Cloud Sea, and the ones here are not strong. Everyone isn't willing to be a Diana Xiao. Yizheng was right. In Mo Cloud Sea, Diana Xiao was a rare occupation. This was related to the fact that Mo Cloud Sea lacked a top-ranked Diana Xiao. In the past, the strongest had been Zhong Ru. Even though he was powerful, he was still weak when compared to others in Mo Cloud Sea. Most in Mo Cloud Sea cultivated the sword. Wei Sheng's terrifyingly unparalleled power was revered by countless followers. The famed Vermilion Bird Camp was also mostly comprised of sword Xiao. Most importantly, Mo Cloud Sea had created a unique sword cultivation method, such as the sword essence comprehending formation. Then it was the seal Xiao. A seal Xiao with a good foundation could find a relatively good job in Mo Cloud Sea. Also, Golden Crow Camp possessed a complete set of seal cultivation jade scrolls that could teach seal Xiao to cultivate. There were not many roaming Xiao and Diana Xiao in Mo Cloud Sea. Yet what people did not know was that Xian Kong Temple's Sutra Pavilion had landed in Zhuamo's hands. That was the biggest factor in Zhong Ru being able to come out of seclusion. It was these profound Diana Xiao records and Zhuamo's Shen Power Jade Scrolls that had formed the foundation for Zhong Ru to comprehend another kind of Shen Power. After stealing Xian Kong Temple's succession, Zhuamo felt it really was a waste to leave it lying unused. Then there was the matter of Heartleaf Diana Sect's attack. While Mo Cloud Sea had pressed the Heartleaf Diana sect, The other had presented documents and said that these people had been exiled from Heartleaf Diana sect half a year ago. Angered, Zhuo started to think of other solutions. The two biggest powers that held back Kunlun and Tianhuan were Shixian and the Nine Great Diana sect. While the Nine Great Diana sect also possessed a top battle general in Yang Yuanhao, they had many inner conflicts to deal with. Zhuo had originally thought of selling Shen equipment to increase the power of the Nine Great Diana sects to fight against Kunlun and Tianhuan. The matter of Heartleaf Diana sect caused Zhuo to smell danger. Kunlun's and Tianhuan's infiltration of the Nine Great Diana sect had progressed far more than he had predicted. If a conflict did erupt, there probably would not be many sects that would really fight back. Since Kunlun and Tianhuan could infiltrate the Nine Great Diana sects, why couldn't they do the same? Zhongru asked, "What do you think of the Nine Great Diana sects?" Yi Zheng was slightly puzzled. He didn't understand what Master Zhong was talking about, but Yi Zheng's Shixiang did. After a moment of thought, he said, "Too many people, too many desires, a group of rabble. Would you be willing to go to the Nine Great Diana sects?" Zhongru asked. Yi Zheng's Shixiang suddenly understood, his eyes brightening. Does Mo Cloud C plan to infiltrate the Nine Great Diana sects? Yes. Zhongru did not refute it. It was better to speak of this matter clearly. He continued, "The present Nine Great Diana sects cannot stop Kunlun and Tianhuan. I do not know about the Great Buddha Temple, but sects like the Heartleaf Diana sect have been completely infiltrated." Yi Zheng's Shixiang was silent. If Kunlun and Tianhuan take down the Nine Great Diana sects, Mo Cloud C will not have a barrier any longer. "This is why we came up with this idea," Zhongru said. "Mo Cloud C does not want to swallow the Nine Great Diana sects?" Yi Zheng's Shixiang suddenly asked. "It is not that we do not want to, but we cannot," Zhongru said honestly. "We need a barrier more than increasing our territory. You want to turn the Nine Great Diana sects into a bog to delay Kunlun and Tianhuan?" Yi Zheng's Shixiang had a sharp gaze. "You overestimate the Nine Great Diana sects," Zhongru said coolly. Yi Zheng's Shixiang was silent. Zhongru was right. The Nine Great Diana sects did not have this power unless someone could unite the Nine Great Diana sects. However, this was impossible. Even Xian Kong Temple had not been able to do it. No matter if it is Kunlun or Tianhuan, if they win, the Diana Xiu will become subordinates. If Mo Cloud C luckily wins, you will not have to worry about this. Please do not worry. No matter if you are willing to complete this task or not, I will not take away this jade scroll." Zhongru looked at Yi Zheng's Shixiang. A moment later, Yi Zheng's Shixiang said, "What do I need to do?" "First, you need to recover, cultivate Shen power and increase your strength." Zhongru's eyes flashed with intelligence. "Only when you are strong will you have the right to speak. Then we will give you more support, including money and resources to help you obtain a higher status in the sect. You know the situation of Great Buddha Temple better than I do. Based on my knowledge, the Great Buddha Temple is not ranked high among the Nine Great Diana sects. For you, this is a chance. If you can increase the influence of Great Buddha Temple, you will receive more support from inside the temple." Yi Zheng twisted his mouth, his face unwilling. He was very displeased about returning to Great Buddha Temple. He had felt the cold-heartedness of the world there, and what had been left were not good memories. His Shixiang listened carefully. "Our personnel support will be very limited. Mo Cloud C has too few Diana Xiu." Zhongru was helpless, but he quickly gave other suggestions. "However, we will help you investigate the other sects for disciples that are strong but overlooked. It will be up to you to recruit them." Yi Zheng's Shixiang nodded. "I understand. Yi Zheng's personality is not suited to this. I can go alone." Yi Zheng was panicked upon hearing this and jumped up. "No!" Shixiang. Shixiang looked sternly at Yi Zheng. Yi Zheng respected his Shixiang greatly and immediately quieted down. "You have a straightforward personality and cannot disguise your emotions. You are not suited to doing this," Shixiang said in a gentle voice. "You are also at a good time for cultivating. Do not waste that. Do not waste the good fortune of being with Master Zong." "But," Yijing started. Also, while there are many things wrong with the temple, I grew up in the temple since childhood, how can I watch as it declines? Great Buddha temple situation is already terrible. Shi Xiang had a nostalgic expression as he said emotionally. Yijing could not find anything to say. Both for the common good and for me personally, Yiqing needs to thank Zhong Ru and Zhuemo Darren. Yiqing bowed to Zhong Ru. If there is a day that the 9 great Dhyana sects are defeated, Yiqing requests to enter Mo Cloud Sea for protection. Zhong Ru looked deeply at Yiqing and thought inside, these large sects were full of geniuses. In his view, Yijing was a good talent, and he hadn't expected the other's Shi Xiang to be even better. The other had good vision, and if it wasn't for being hampered by his injury for a long time, he would not have declined to such a state. After being reborn now, this person would soar in the sky. I can promise you this. Mo Cloud Sea will accept even the Yao, how can we not accept the Dhyana Shio? Zhong Ru said gravely. Yiqing is willing to do this. Yiqing bowed the bow of a subordinate. Zhong Ru's expression was slightly happy. Yiqing's bow expressed that he accepted his status with Mo Cloud Sea. He reached out and helped Yiqing's up. This matter is greatly dangerous, be careful. If it cannot be accomplished, prioritize your safety, you are more important than anything else. Yiqing's heart felt warmed. Yiqing understands. Zhong Ru said in a deep voice, I have not named this Shin power. Starting from today, you will be its creator. Seeing Yiqing about to speak, Zhong Ru waved his hand to stop the other and said, reputation is meaningless to me. However, it can help us accumulate fame. Reputation is a kind of power. If you can use it appropriately, it can save you great effort in your mission. Yiqing was full of admiration. He had never heard of Zhong Ru before, yet the personality and strength that Master Zhong displayed were all that of a great Dhyana Shio. But I need to speak to you of the origins of this Shin power, Zhong Ru said gravely. This Shin power has been greatly influenced by Darren's Mo Cloud Shin power, but its origin is Xian Kong Temple's secret, empty meditation. Yiqing and Yijing seemed to be struck by lightning, motionless like statues, when they heard this. Chapter 761. The changes of the little ones. There were all kinds of strange scents floating off Chun Yucheng's Cloud Island. Zhuemo was reminded about this each time he came, especially the smell of fresh ling grasses mixed with all kinds of waste. It was torture. Chun Yucheng's expression was intoxicated. Such a fresh and healthy smell. Zhuemo smiled helplessly. Chun Shidi was more and more enchanted with animal husbandry and his temper had become strange. The other was all right with him, but was not friendly to others, especially disliking people coming onto his Cloud Island. There were many kinds of ling and mo grasses planted on the island to feed the cloud seeds. Zhuemo had not seen many of these ling grasses before. They flashed with enchanting lights, which meant that their grade was not low. In the present Mo Cloud Sea, Zhuemo's half-assed ling plant farmer skill was laughable. The ling plant farmers of Mo Cloud Sea were unlike the ling plant farmers anywhere else. They were skilled in using seal formations and their effectiveness was higher. This was a unique system that Mo Cloud Sea's strong forging abilities provided the support for. Cloud Sea Jie did not have many ling fields and the ling plant farmers were mostly gathered in the Jie with large tracts of ling fields. The ling grasses on Chun Sherdis Island were relatively high grade, and the skill of the ling plant farmers were relatively high as well. How are they? Zhuemo asked in concern. You should have sent them a long time ago. Chun Yucheng's expression was pained as he chatted. If you sent them in a bit later, they would have been wasted. Oh, it wouldn't have been useful if you sent them over earlier. I hadn't found out how to raise cloud steeds then, and then, you picked a good opportunity. Zhuemo felt tormented by Chun Sherdis' excessive chatter. He tried to endure. People like Chun Shidi had unusual enthusiasm and obsession with their own field and didn't care about anything else. They did not understand how to interact with people and rarely conversed with other people. Most of them had strange personalities. On the other hand, they had outstanding talent and they worked furiously, unaffected by anything else. They usually achieved more in their own field than other people. Zhuemo could understand them. Chattering endlessly on the way, they finally came to the beast pool from last time. Chun Yuqing became alert and didn't waste words. 10th grade and Sunshine are good, especially 10th grade. His killing energy is thick and he is a rare vicious being. I used the hunt blood pool to nurture his body. This will increasing his killing energy. He uses the sword and I asked eldest Shixiang to find the most vicious sword scripture for him. Most vicious scripture? Zuemo felt a cold sweat. If it was the most vicious sword scripture that Chun Shidi could find, he would just smile and dismiss it. But if it was eldest Shixiang, then it definitely was the most vicious sword scripture. Chun Yuqing had a smug expression. I don't really understand sword scriptures, but since eldest Shixiang said it was the most vicious, then it definitely is. Hundreds sacrificed souls killing sword. How about it? Just this name seems very powerful. Zuomo's body couldn't help but shake. He knew this sword scripture. This had been from Pu's collection. Pu had said back then that the 100 sacrificed souls killing sword was not the strongest sword scripture, but could be said to be one of the most vicious. At this time, Zuemo had not been affected by Pu Yao's emotional opinion. He didn't have much interest in cultivating sword scriptures. Zuemo thought of another problem and couldn't help but ask, can 10th grade cultivate? 10th grade was not like eldest Shixiang. He originated from a Ling beast and was not like a Xiuzha. He had never heard of a Ling beast cultivating a sword scripture. I had worried about this before, but I found later on that 10th grade is very intelligent and matched well with this sword scripture. There isn't a problem at all. Chun Yuqing's expression of pride grew as he seemed to ask for praise. Shixiang, when the time comes, you will have a super sidekick. 10th grade's name was really chosen with great foresight. Shixiang, did you predict a long time ago that he could reach 10th grade? Zuomo's expression was righteous. Of course. Otherwise, how can I be your Shixiang? That's true. Chun Yuqing nodded seriously. As expected, those that are Shixiang are all strong. Shixiang, you are strong, Gongsun Shixiang is also strong, but eldest Shixiang is the strongest. Why? Zuemo thought, had Chun Shidi grown powerful enough that he could see people's power? Because he's Gongsun Shixiang's Shixiang. Chun Yuqing's expression was matter-of-fact. Of course he is the strongest. Zuemo was speechless. He quickly changed the topic. Sunshine. Chun Yuqing fell for it as expected. Sunshine's attributes are the opposite of 10th grade. His specialties are healing, protection, and assistance. If 10th grade is yin, then Sunshine is yang. Therefore, the beast pool that I picked is the water flesh wood bone pool. For Sunshine I did not choose spells, but Yao arts. Looking at the excitement on Chun Yuqing's face, Zuemo perceptively asked, oh, what great Yao art is it? Ha! Shixiang, you understand me the best. Chun Yuqing laughed proudly. Increasing his volume, he said joyfully, it is the universal life that has been said to be the essential art for super nannies. Oh, the Yao like to call the people who cultivate this Yao art nannies. I feel it is very accurate. Other than this, he also cultivates ward-breaking art. Shixiang, don't worry. Under my great care, Sunshine can definitely move into the ranks of the top nannies. Such an adorable nanny. Looking at the snowy white and handsome Sunshine, Zuemo seemed to see him wearing an apron and holding a bottle in his hand. He couldn't help but shudder. He immediately felt sympathy for Sunshine, but when his words reached his mouth, it became, sure this results are masterworks. Chun Yuqing became more excited upon receiving Zuemo's praise. He pulled Zuemo over and said excitedly, as expected, Shixiang understands me best. Those people do not understand the greatness and holiness of husbandry. This is a kind of creation, a novel creation. I am fated to be the man that will create the strongest Ling beasts. Zuemo wiped the cold sweat away from his face as he nodded. Shidi is ambitious. I admire this. Chun Yuqing smiled and pulled Zuemo to a tall Dan cauldron. I asked Golden Crow Camp to forge this Dan cauldron. I also got Sun Bao and Ji Wei to operate it for a few days. It is a pity that I couldn't find them later on. The other people said that they went out. Chun Yucheng's tone was full of regret. If they are here, this fire will definitely be stronger. Zuaremo, who knew about the entire matter, sighed again. He was filled with sympathy towards Sun Bao and Ji Wei. Chun Yucheng usually did not show himself in public, but he was Zuamo's shitty. His status in Mo Cloud C was high. If his requests were not ridiculous, no one would dare refuse him. Due to this, when they received a request for help, Sun Bao and Ji Wei had hurried over despite their heavy workload. But Chun Yucheng had the two of them act as cauldron workers. Heavens, the two masters of Golden Crow Camp, the two top people in charge of all the seal shio in Mo Cloud C acting as manual laborers, and for 3 days. When they reached 3 days, they did not relent to Chun Yucheng's invitation and fled with their ash-covered faces. I couldn't find them no matter what I tried. I could only hire some of the experienced people from Golden Crow Camp. However, they are lacking compared to Sun Bao and Ji Wei, but still acceptable. Chun Yucheng was clearly slightly displeased. It's fine if it is about the same. Zuaremo hurriedly comforted. That's true. Chun Yucheng thought and said with a tilted head, this Dan cauldron is good and the people later on worked hard. The results aren't bad. Shi Xiang's Shen fire was also crucial and beneficial to Lil Fire's growth. However, Lil Fire is slightly less intelligent compared to 10th grade and Sunshine. But it is an Yao beast to begin with and has no trouble cultivating Yao arts. I found a fire Yao art in the Pu Wei library called the Fire Heart Bone Refining Art for it. Zuemo stilled and instinctively asked, Lil Fire has bones? Lil Fire had ended up in Zuemo's demonic hands many times and he had squeezed the other countless times. In Zuemo's memories, Lil Fire was like a rubber ball and didn't have any bones. It does. When it came to his profession, Chun Yucheng's expression immediately became serious. There are many small bones inside its body similar to sea sponges. These bones are very small and flexible. Their structure is very flexible and resilient, so Lil Fire appears as though it is boneless. Oh, so this cultivation will thicken its bones and have it become more powerful? Zuemo asked with anticipation. Powerful? Chun Yucheng shook his head with bewilderment. I don't know that. I only felt that these kind of bones were rare and wanted to try cultivating it. Zuemo's face was black as a pot. Even you don't know the result? No, this is normal. It is hard to predict the results of many husbandry trials. Chun Yucheng said with a righteous tone. But when Chun Yucheng turned and saw Zuemo's black face, he knew it was not good. He was so friendly this time because he had a goal. If he ruined the matter, it would be terrible. He hurriedly pulled Zuemo to another place. Unlike the other beast pools, there was a kind of vine growing here that Zuemo had never seen. It grew over multiple mu of fields and under the thick vines, there was a transparent bubble that hung below. Lil Black seemed to see Zuemo from within the bubble. It furiously moved its legs, but no matter how it moved, it only spun around in the water bubble. Shi Xiang, look, this is the water bubble vine, Chun Yucheng hurriedly introduced. It can grow this a special kind of water bubble, and is a natural beast pool. Also, Shi Xiang, take a look. As he spoke, he pulled away the thick leaves covering the ground and showed a beast pool. Zuemo found that the roots of the water bubble vine grew into the beast pool. The medicine in the beast pool is absorbed by the root system and then gathers in the water bubbles. This process is even more wondrous than the seal formations we engrave. All kinds of medicines can merge together in the water bubble and form a natural beast pool. Zuemo was also attracted by such a wondrous beast pool. Chun Yucheng saw the interest on Zuemo's face and continued, the medicine absorbed will change slightly through the vine's roots and leaves. This is also the source of its great ability. However, because the water bubbles are not very big, it can only be used on those relatively small beasts. I saw Lil Black and immediately thought of the water bubble vine. What is its use to Lil Black? Zuemo went directly for the core of the matter. Shi Xiang, don't be shocked when you hear this. Chun Yucheng was both smug and mysterious. Chapter 762, The bird with the domineering presence, speak. Zhuo glared at Chun Yucheng. The smugness on Chun Yucheng's face did not decrease. He lowered his voice and spoke softly as if revealing the greatest secret. Lil Black is sensitive to Ling energy. This is why it can find treasures. However, I discovered after studying that its ability lies with its pair of antennae. Also, it isn't just able to detect to Ling energy, it is able to detect to many things such as killing energy, warmth, and presence. However, in reality, what it is sensitive to is vibration. Vibration? Zhuo's expression was shocked. This answer was unexpected. Yes, vibration. Chun Yucheng's expression became grave. This is the true reason it can find treasures. Ling veins and talismans have unique Ling power vibrations, and it would find these treasures through these vibrations. The usual husbandry method would strengthen its antennae to make it more sensitive, use Ling medicine filled with Ling power to stimulate its antennae, so it becomes familiar to the vibrations of Ling power and become more sensitive to that energy. However, Ling power is already being retired, and Shen power is more powerful. But Shen power has vibrations. At the core, there is no difference, they are all different kinds of power. I thought that if it could remember vibrations of Shen power, couldn't it be able to find treasures with Shen power? The more he spoke, the more excited Chun Yucheng got. Therefore, I found all kinds of materials with Shen power. However, these materials are really expensive and there are too few. Speaking of this, Bao Yi is a penny pincher. Every time I go to get materials from him, that person looks like a miser. I get so angry. Chun Yucheng gritted his teeth when he spoke of Bao Yi, but Zhuo did not care. Bao Yi's personality was so, and as a result, he was the best choice of personnel to manage the stores. Otherwise, Zhuo's little bit of wealth would not be enough for these people to madly waste. Did it succeed? Zhuo was more concerned with this. Chun Yucheng was angry about Bao Yi, but that was because of the conflict over the materials. The two didn't have any actual personal conflict, and so Zhuo's question immediately shifted the topic of conversation away. He hesitated, and then said haltingly, "Theoretically, it should be a success." In reality? Zhuo immediately saw through his little trick. I don't know. Chun Yucheng might use some simple and clumsy moves, but he would not lie, especially when it came to his field. The entire process was very smooth, but I have no confidence in the result. No one has ever done this before, and I cannot find any examples. Therefore, I will only know what level it reached when it all pans out. Chun Yucheng was afraid that Zhuo would have high hopes and be greatly disappointed, so he poured cold water. However, we cannot rush this. Even if it recognizes Shen power vibrations, there is a problem of sensitivity. If it is not sensitive towards Shen power, then there is no value. However, I am certain that this is definitely the direction that Ling beasts, Yao beasts and Mo steeds will develop in. Shen power is the best path. You did good. Zhuo was certain about Qin Shidis' results. He was not someone who did not have foresight. He knew that what looked like it to run a business, anything that was unable to produce value today, could still be an important step. Will anything happen to Lil Black? Zhuo looked at Lil Black, who was spinning in the water bubble, and couldn't help but ask, "What do you mean?" Chun Yucheng stilled. Things like life-threatening danger, Zhuo explained. The little ones had followed him for many years, and Zhuo didn't really care if they were strong or not. However, he definitely would not like any accidents happening to them. Life-threatening danger? Chun Yucheng's face flushed red, and so did his neck, as though he was being humiliated greatly. He said loudly, "So in Shixiang's eyes, my skill is so low?" Zhuo had not expected that his mindless words would cause such a great response from Qing Shidi. He hurriedly bowed, apologized, and comforted with gentle words to pacify the fires of Qing Shidis' anger. Fortunately, Chun Yucheng's temper left as fast as it came. When the two reached Lil Pagoda's beast pool, he had completely forgotten about the incident and became excited again. Lil Pagoda is actually different from the other little ones. He's a talisman, and also Shixiang's soul bond talisman. Theoretically, husbandry methods cannot be used on him, But he actually is the most intelligent of the little ones after Silly Bird. Its body forms a complete system, from the 5-element attribute to the dual attributes of yin and yang. I don't know anything about forging, but I understand Ling beasts. Lil Pagoda's highly intelligent and not very different from Ling beasts. It knows best about what it needs. Zuoremo listened carefully. Of the little ones, he liked the cute Lil Pagoda the most. It can consume all kinds of materials and then deconstruct them into pure yin and yang base essence. Its body is filled with the base essence of yin and yang. However, these two base essence powers are clearly divided and repel each other. This situation has occurred in many Ling beasts that have dual attributes, such as fire and water. If they come into conflict, the Ling beast will feel great pain and the power of the Ling beast will be greatly reduced. The crux to solving this problem is to merge these two completely opposite powers so they will subdue and augment each other like the fire lotus in water that is frequently seen. Yin and yang is even easier to balance. They have a perfect merging method, the yin-yang fish. Once in his zone, Chun Yucheng seemed to be a completely different person. His body gave off a presence of great self-confidence. He waved his arms, his voice strong. The most important requirement to forming the yin-yang fish is that yin and yang have to reach an absolute equilibrium. When the two reach a true equilibrium, the yin-yang fish will naturally form. Therefore, I continued to feed yin and yang materials to it to adjust the strength of the yin and yang powers. Just as I expected, Shixiang look. Before Chun Yucheng finished, Li Pagoda in the medicine pool had detected Zuomo's arrival and happily dove into Zuomo's arm. Zuomo picked it up by the tip of the power and held it in front of him. Lil Pagoda happily waved its black eaves. This guy was even fatter. Zuomo thought hatefully. No matter if it was the top of the tower, the body, or the eaves, they were even rounder than before. What had changed the most was the level just underneath the tip of the tower. There were two little yin-yang fish that looked like two eyes. What made Zuomo speechless was that Lil Pagoda could use its fat body to squeeze the yin-yang fish. It appeared as though its eyes were blinking. This guy's truly intelligent. Zuomo muttered in joy. Feeling Zuomo's happiness, Lil Pagoda used its round body to snuggle in Zuomo's hand. Don't snuggle, you idiot, you swallowed so much materials, you'll have to sell yourself to pay back. Zuomo said harshly. But his hand was gentle as he put this growing glutton onto his shoulder. Lil Pagoda's little Eve hands flapped even more happily. It jumped from Zuomo's right shoulder to his left and back again as it played happily. It really is intelligent. Chun Yucheng couldn't help but say. It is the first time I have seen such an intelligent talisman. How about Silly Bird? Zuomo asked. That's another one. Chun Yucheng's expression became even more spectacular. He then said, Shixiang, come with me and see. Coming to the lava pool from last time, Silly Bird still had an expression of idle enjoyment. This bird is no ordinary bird. Chun Yucheng couldn't help but say. Its intelligence is fantastical. Look at its feathers. Following Chun Yucheng's finger, Zuomo looked and immediately found that Silly Bird's feathers were bright red and unusually grand. What was the most difficult to comprehend was that the feathers would give off threads of flame. Zuomo's eyes widened as he exclaimed, Phoenix feathers. You recognized it. Chun Yucheng sounded as though he was sleep-talking, even though he had seen this numerous times before. The legends say the feathers of the phoenix are as red as blood and can give off unique flames. With one flap of their wing can create a sea of fire. Phoenixes regenerate, are born accompanied by fire, and will die accompanied by fire. Zuomo was dumbstruck. It doesn't have any bloodline of a phoenix. I hadn't expected that it could become a phoenix. Truthfully, I'm not sure if a phoenix is something like this. I've never seen one before. But even if Silly Bird isn't a phoenix, it is not much lesser in comparison. Also, this isn't its strongest trait. Refocusing, Zuomo blurted out, Then what? Her physical body. Chun Yucheng's expression was grave. Her body is astounding, powerful and resilient, stronger than those Mo physiques. I threw many Yao arts and spells at her and she ignored them all. I found a mo skill to throw at her. She took a glance but then threw it away. I finally understood that she desired to cultivate mo skills. She wanted to cultivate mo skills? Zwa mo stammered out a question. This matter clearly was beyond the limits of his imagination. Yes. Chun Yu-ching nodded seriously and then said, so I started to search for mo skills that were suitable. I hadn't thought that she would be extremely picky. I found more than a dozen mo skills, but she wasn't satisfied. You know that I'm very busy and I don't have the time to search through them. I threw all the high-level mo skills we had at her for her to choose. Chun Yu-ching had a conflicted expression. I hadn't expected for this one to actually choose one. Zwa mo's expression also became strange. Which one did she choose? Solitary Dance of the Great Dark Wheel Phoenix. Chun Yu-ching said. Only after that did I think, is she actually a phoenix? However, I've never heard of a mortal bird ascending to become a phoenix. It is not rational. It is not rational at all. Chun Yu-ching shook his head furiously as though he wanted to throw this thought out of his head. Solitary Dance of the Great Dark Wheel Phoenix. Zwa mo was so shocked he was speechless. If his memory was correct, this mo skill was one that Pu Yao said could not be successfully cultivated. This bird, did she really get possessed by a phoenix? Zwa mo dazedly looked at Silly Bird, who was soaking in the lava, with an expression of enjoyment. As he looked, Zwa mo suddenly felt that Silly Bird's half-lidded eyes and expression of enjoyment did have a certain style. After thinking for a moment, he recalled the phrase, "A domineering presence," that you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.